Alright. Get myself together. Okay. That going, that can go over here, put that over here. All the places where the things go. Okay. About time. I was on time today. I was on time, Hector. I'm not excited about today. Thank you, Hector. Hopefully my TikTok doesn't get taken down today. I hope. I hope not. Yeah, Lenati, we haven't talked in so long. It's been so long. We'll see. Before Hector, we're talking Fauci, so it's about to be really fun up in here. I'm so excited for me today. I don't want to fucking do this again, but we have to do this again. I want to talk about the fact we bombed Iraq. Can we talk about that? No? Okay, we don't want to talk about that? Okay, cool. but you're the one. All right. Good morning to everybody, no matter your woke time zone. I appreciate it. You know why? Because they lived and died in the years of like 2020 into 2022. We know why. Yeah, they're gonna be insufferable because they're stupid, Casey. Good morning to everybody, no matter what time zone you are in. I appreciate you guys being here. If you're watching over on TikTok, can you please start tapping that screen for me, please? We are on for 3 hours today. So I do, usually I give you guys the low bar of 50,000 likes per hour, but I know that you guys can do better than that. I know you guys can do 100,000 likes an hour, so let's work on tapping that screen. Remember, the benefit of me having likes and being promoted onto the TikTok algorithm is just a side effect of what you guys learn with what those fingers can do when you work them out, right? Remember that I'm doing this for you and I'm doing this for your partners. It's really just a side effect benefit that I get. So let's make sure we are doing that. Thank you so much, Peter, to start the day off. I think, Peter, that you have been giving me crabs every single day of my work weeks, and I appreciate that. I do love having crabs all week. That's a statement. Sorry, I gotta move my chair. All right. Share out the live now before we get started, especially today before we get started. Guys, repost it now, right now, repost it. Add it to your story. Share it to like 5 of your friends. And so make sure that we get pushed out onto that algorithm today, please, because it's going to be a rough one. I have a feeling. Do your daily heart me if you have not done so. That little heart above my head. Sometimes it goes above my head. Sometimes Trump gets it. Who knows? It just depends on the heart me, really. It gives you access to stickers in the chat that you guys have. We got a lot of fun ones of my faith. We have the funny one that Kayla made with me as Steve from Blue's Clues with the calculator, and also Chicky, who made me a wonderful one of me when I had the little glasses on with the heart, is now drawn in there as well that you guys can use. So make sure that we are doing that. Thank you, Hector, for completing out the roses goal. We now have corn. It's a big lump with knobs and it has the juice. Make sure that we are completing those little goals as we are sitting here. What else do I have? I have 3 more items left in my gift gallery. I have the whale diving, the meteor shower, and the flying jets. I know that those are the most expensive gifts, but if you happen to have TikTok change on hand that you would like to do for that, let's try and light that gift gallery up by the end of this week. I would appreciate it. If you're watching over on YouTube, guys, hit that thumbs up button for me. I know that you guys may not like me, but that is okay. Just push me out onto that algorithm anyway, so it may be people braver than you will call in based with factually based information and not your feelings. I only have conversations based off of factually based information. I will ask you to source your claim. I don't want to hear common sense. I don't want to hear you don't think. I don't want to hear any of that. I just want facts. Thank you so much. But I would appreciate it. You can also subscribe. You can become a member over there on YouTube. You can send jewels and you can send super chats in case the chat starts going by too fast, and you really have something you want me to read, whether you are praising me, giving me information, or insulting me. You can do it that way. I would appreciate it if you did. Hello, my lovelies over on Twitch. We've got Kilo, Dark Eagle, Dead Internet Theory, and Surgeon. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you are not following me, please do so. I would appreciate it so very much. Remember, you can subscribe over there on Twitch. If you pay for Prime, Jeff Bezos gives you 1 free Prime sub a month. Why not use it on moi? I would appreciate it. It does give you access to emotes in the chat, which, as I see Dead Internet Theory saw, that I did replace the emote with the one that Chicky drew for me. So thank you again, Chicky. I love it so much. So thank you for that. And you can send bits over there as well. Guys, remember, I have increased my goal, but if the goal remains the same, we have 150. Since I'm doing $50 an hour for 3 hours, I think that is just the right amount for a woman's work. If we could work on that, I would appreciate it. This is my job. This is how I pay my bills. This is what I do for a living. So let's pay for women's labor because that's what we do on this app. Dollar Train, $2 Train, $5 Train, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all in the link trees in my bio across all 3 platforms as we get started today. Okay. I'm not excited. I would like to... So what we're going to do is we're going to go to... Okay. I'm going to give a trigger warning first. Trigger warning. We are finally getting to my health section that I've had for a while. Now, I have things to talk about in regards that I just haven't gotten to here. I'm sure people have heard about it. I'm sure people have read about it, but we are going to get to it here. Organize. That is the flu outbreak on after Hegseth removed the requirements for the flu vaccine on bases. We're going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about some abortion stuff. It's very, very, I think I have like 2 clips real quick. And then Cyclospora. And then we will move to the Fauci stuff. I know we want to get to the Fauci stuff. I want to get to the Fauci stuff, but I'm going to start there first because I have a feeling it's going to take the rest of the day. Hopefully not. We'll see. I would like to get to my immigration portion today too, but who knows. But I'm giving the trigger warning out that we are talking about health. So, COVID was a hard time for a lot of us. COVID was a very, very hard time for a lot of us. A lot of people lost loved ones during that time. I want to make sure to everybody that if you are able to listen, please listen. If you're able to tap, that's going to be the most important today, is tapping and filling out those little gifts. I will try to keep them little as much as I can because TikTok does not like this subject. So, but a lot of people were hurt during this time. A lot of people lost people during this time. And I understand that that is going to be difficult to have a bunch of dumb idiots, uneducated, unintelligent idiots come on and be deniers. So I am putting that warning out there that we will be talking about those subjects. If I am able to move on from that today and that not be the entirety of my show, I will put in my Discord when we are done with that completely and that I am no longer talking about it. If they want to talk about it in the comments, that's on them. But if you would like to avoid my space completely today because it is too much, or if you would like that notice to come back, that will be there for you. Okay? All right. Let's get started first. With, granted, some of these are older stories because the news moves very fast with this administration. So, this was in April. The Pentagon ends mandatory flu vaccines for service members. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Tuesday announced an end to the mandatory flu vaccine for all service members, citing a need to restore medical autonomy. In a memo issued by Hegseth, the Defense Department said, effective immediately, the annual influenza vaccine is voluntary for all active duty and reserve troops, including civilian personnel in the department. Service members may still choose to receive the vaccine, but it is no longer a condition of service, marking a sweeping reversal of long-standing health policy. The notion that a flu vaccine must be a mandatory for every service member everywhere in every circumstance at all times is just overly broad and not rational, Hegseth said in a video on social media. Our new policy is simple. If you, an American warrior entrusted to defend this nation, believe that the flu vaccine is in your best interest and you are free to take it, you should, but we will not force you. Okay. So that happened. And then, uh-oh. Flu sickens scores of troops at Air Force Base in Texas after Pentagon ends vaccine requirement. U.S. airmen and trainees have fallen ill after a flu outbreak at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, according to a spokesperson for the military branch. The number of sickened troops could be over 200, according to a source at the base. The outbreak comes less than 2 months after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ended the requirement for U.S. troops to receive an annual flu vaccine. In an April video announcement, Hegseth called the mandate absurd and overreaching. Under the disastrous Biden administration, this Pentagon waged an unrelenting war on our warriors on many fronts, including when it came to denying them simple medical autonomy and the freedom to express their religious convictions, Hegseth said. Lackland is where Air Force enlistees go for basic military training. The sprawling facility cycles through tens of thousands of recruits every year. The New York Times was first to report the news of the outbreak. In the wake of the outbreak, the Air Force requested an exemption to Hegseth's policy that would allow it to mandate flu vaccines at the base, according to a second person familiar with the details of the response. The base has since started vaccinating people. In a statement, an Air Force spokesperson described the outbreak as localized to the base's basic training wing. Yeah, Chicky. Nature said, bet. Bet, bitch. So then that happened. Let's see if I can get this to load, because again, these are older articles. Don't know why. I remember when I put this one in there, the headline doesn't come up, which is weird, but it's okay. This is June 24th. So that last article was June 19th. This is June 24th now. The Pentagon said Wednesday that boot camps for all military services are once again requiring the flu vaccination for all recruits after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made the shot optional for the military at the end of April. The development, confirmed to the Associated Press by a Pentagon official, comes amid a growing weeks-long flu outbreak at the U.S. Air Force's boot camp at Lackland Air Force Base that has sickened nearly 300 people. However, the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss details not cleared for public release, maintained that the permission to mandate the vaccinations was unrelated to the outbreak. Right. Sure. When Hegseth first announced the repeal of the flu vaccine mandate in April, citing medical autonomy and religious freedom, he allowed the services to ask for exceptions or permission to keep the vaccine mandatory within 15 days of the rollout. The Pentagon official explained that the decision on those exceptions were being finalized earlier in June, and the timing with the outbreak at Laughlin was just a coincidence. Only 40% of the new trainees moved through the boot camp at Laughlin opted to receive the shot once it became optional, a source familiar with the situation told the Associated Press. The person spoke on condition of anonymity because the information was not cleared for public release. Probably because it's bullshit. They just quietly tried to put it back. That's probably why. They just probably quietly tried to put it back. It's just a coincidence, though. No, couldn't have anything to do with anything. So there was a person by the name of Schwartz who works underneath HHS. They came in front of Congress, and Senator Hassan specifically asked them about RFK ordering them to stop promoting the flu vaccine. So I know what I just talked about was specifically in regards to the military, and they have their own rules and regulations. They do follow a little bit with HHS, but it's the military. But in way of the public, okay, the American public, was RFK Jr. promoting the flu vaccine during a deadly flu season, or was he urging you to stop that promotion? Did I fix the sound? Yes, I did. Okay.
Dr. Schwartz, the CDC director is responsible for protecting Americans and especially children from life-threatening disease outbreaks. If Secretary Kennedy ordered you to stop promoting the flu vaccine during a deadly flu season, would you carry out that order?
Senator, when I was the Deputy Surgeon General, I worked at the Office of the Surgeon General. And one of the things that was very concerning was that the Surgeon General had a number of campaigns, public health campaigns, that he wanted to do. And yet we had very limited resources.
Yeah, ma'am, so I'm asking you a different question, and I have limited time. So if you are instructed to stop promoting the flu vaccine during a deadly flu season, would you carry out that order, yes or no?
We had to prioritize what we could focus on, what we couldn't.
Look, I'm going to stop you again.
I would question that, though. I know Hassan is going to do her job and try to keep her on track and focus, but she says we had to prioritize what we focused and didn't focus on. My pushback on that would be that you have to prioritize is coming off as if you do not have the employees or the resources to be able to focus on all of those things at one time. And what I would say, yeah, there's the flag. What I would say is that, didn't RFK Jr. get in there and start firing a bunch of people? I thought we were going with efficiency. And so they went through HHS and they started firing people. I don't know, Hector, because I have done that before and it still does it. Who knows? Who knows with TikTok? So how come you had to prioritize what you needed to focus and not focus on? Maybe you shouldn't have fired all those fucking people, right? Maybe.
This isn't a hypothetical question. The flu season last year killed almost 300 children, and we have clear data from the CDC that the best way to save children's lives is by giving them the flu vaccine. Nevertheless, in the middle of the deadly flu outbreak last year, Secretary Kennedy personally directed the CDC to immediately stop all promotion of the flu vaccine, including promotion campaigns that were already planned and paid for. So I want to give you a chance to answer again. If the Secretary ordered you to stop promoting the flu vaccine during a deadly flu season for children, would you carry out that order, yes or no?
So, Senator, I don't speak in hypotheticals, but
This isn't a hypothetical. It happened, and I've got the email if you want to see it later. So yes or no? Are you going to protect our kids, or are you going to follow an uninformed order from the Secretary?
Senator, I will always protect our children.
So you would refuse that order, yes or no?
Senator, my understanding of what happened back then was that the Secretary has various priorities. And as he's looking at his priorities in terms of what to fund, what not to fund.
I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. You just heard Senator Kaine talk about the appropriations process. The money was in the budget. It was there.
So now they're going to talk about, well, we have to decide what we're going to fund and what we're not going to fund. No, you actually don't, because Congress did that job for you. because they are on appropriations committee. So not only is Congress on the legislative floor, okay, passing bills that have chunks of money, once they pass that chunk of money, you have appropriations committees underneath Congress made up of legislative members who then decide where to appropriate that money that they passed. So that's bullshit. You don't have to sit there and question what to fund and what not to fund because they told you what to fund. The money was sitting there for flu, for promoting a flu vaccine. Why wasn't it done?
And it protects and saves lives. And your answer is really disappointing. Let's go on to another issue.
I don't know what's going on in the YouTube chat already, but you guys are already mad and we're not even talking about that. We're just communism! Communism! Okay, let me go down here past all this stuff that we are gonna get to, but I just need a minute to get down here. Okay. So I just wanted to play this. This was a hearing that Senate Democrats held, specifically talking about reproductive care. And this is this is a woman's testimony about reproductive care. Like I said, I have a couple videos on this. It's going to seem a little mismatched, but I just hadn't been able to get to it, and I just wanted to be able to. So,
you do not know the health care you need until you need it. You can be against abortion for yourself. You can never choose it. But you cannot restrict access to a category of medical care without consequences that reach every pregnant person in this country. Restricting healthcare often means that the medication and equipment isn't readily available or needs administrative approval, delaying care with deadly or life-altering impacts. Reproductive healthcare is a continuum, and the government should not be able to decide what parts of that care you can access. When politicians get to decide what healthcare is moral and immoral, every woman you have ever loved is put at risk. These states' bans are forcing unimaginable pain and pushing hundreds of thousands of women into impossible situations they never saw coming. Trust me, I never saw it either.
just stay out of women's uteruses, please. That would be great. We would appreciate it so very much if you guys would just do that. Just stay out of our uteruses. The last one that I have on abortion, like I said, I only had a couple that I wanted to play, but this was this is the mother of Amber Nicole Thurman. If you guys don't remember, or not, excuse me, not Amber Nicole Thurman. That was another woman who died. Sorry, there's just so many now. This is the mother of Adriana Smith, a woman who was declared brain dead in Georgia, but was used as a literal incubator for a child. And this is her mother speaking, who was not granted the right to have autonomy over her own child.
Adriana was 9 weeks pregnant when she went to the hospital of a headache. They gave her medication and they sent her home without running a single CT scan. The next morning, she was rushed to the hospital where they found multiple blood clots in her brain. Soon after, Adriana was declared brain dead. And then the state of Georgia, not our heartbroken families or the doctor's decisions, what would happen next. The state decided what would happen with my daughter's body because Adriana was pregnant. The hospital told us that we were legally required to keep her on a machine to let the pregnancy continue and that we had no say-so in the matter. My grandson Chance was born on June 13th, premature, after an emergency C-section. My daughter Adriana was taken off life support June 19th. June 15th would have been her 31st birthday. My daughter did not die from a medical emergency alone. She died inside of a system that had already decided her body wasn't hers. A system that made our family, her own child, spectators to her fate. A system allowed to thrive post-Dobbs.
They used her as a human incubator, a human incubator without her or her family's permission. But you guys are fine with that. As I can already see, people are upset. My body, my choice until we're not there yet. Just wait. We'll get there. How long is this? I can't remember how long I had this one, but we're going to get through. Okay, it's 15 minutes long, so we are going to go through this, though. Guys, as we're sitting here, make sure that you are still tapping. We have the corn up there. Let's start working on that. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit that thumbs up button. Timbo, we will get to that section if you can hold your horses on it. But first, I want to talk about this. So remember when we went over, it was, to be fair, it was a day where we had a lot of Supreme Court decisions come out. But the Supreme Court blocked thousands of lawsuits claiming Roundup causes cancer. They ruled on glyphosate. I know. Oh, yeah, you guys can't gift. Sorry. I saw it come on my screen, and then I forget. I just get into my mod shit. Yeah, I know. That's how they're trying to come after us for pre-recorded. Again, TikTok is trying to sync their own platform. It doesn't make any sense. But make sure that you are following me on YouTube and Twitch, because guess what? They're better platforms. Okay. So, SCOTUS ruled in favor of Monsanto, in favor of glyphosate. So this is a More Perfect Union video. It's about 14 and a half minutes long. A More Perfect Union video about that decision. And again, remember that, that RFK Jr. really came into his prowess as a lawyer, as an environmental lawyer. He has nothing in way of health, but an environmental lawyer by suing Monsanto for glyphosate. And before we get started with that, thank you, Oh Me Oh My, for the $25. You said they made an office-style show about an abortion clinic during Woke 1.0 called Control-Alt-Delete. Pretty funny. I have not heard of that. I will have to look that up. Thank you so much. Put that back onto screen. Okay.
50 years ago, Monsanto invented something that would change the world forever.
Roundup. No root, no weed, no problem.
But Roundup was more than just a good weed killer.
We've been using the weed killer for decades, but now it's at the center of a billion-dollar health scandal.
Did Roundup weed killer cause a man to get cancer?
There's many diseases that are linked to glyphosate exposure.
My doctor, he goes, I think this is all due to Roundup.
What made Roundup so effective was the chemical glyphosate, that thanks to Monsanto has become the most popular pesticide in the world, and now one that's linked to cancer.
My patient's dying just so their shareholders can make a few more bucks, just so their CEO can get a bonus.
Despite its links to cancer, Roundup is still a billion-dollar business. So how exactly did Monsanto pull this off?
There was an intentional effort to deceive that took place over many decades.
And now Monsanto has a new owner, a billion-dollar pharmaceutical firm. And together, they're working on a way to keep selling Roundup, no matter the cost.
This is right out of the tobacco industry playbook from decades ago. And we gotta make sure that politicians don't fall for it again this time.
It would kill pretty much any plant it was sprayed on. That was in the period when we were naive about a lot of things.
John Gilbert is a farmer in Iowa who's seen how Roundup came to dominate agriculture in the state.
I think it's gone from a habit to an addiction.
Roundup came on the market in 1974. By the 90s, Monsanto had developed something to turn Roundup from a convenient tool to a necessity.
Monsanto had this brilliant idea to roll out what they called genetically modified crops.
Genetically modified crops were seeds that Monsanto engineered to be resistant to Roundup. So when farmers sprayed their fields, it would kill the weeds, but not their crops.
It was a big ground shift when, when the modified crops came out, because it was orders of magnitude.
Will you guys do me a favor? Make sure you share the live out for me. I see that we only have 18 shares, and since we cannot gift, just continue tapping and sharing as best that we can. My appeal for that shit was not approved because it never fucking is. But just keep doing the good things for me, please.
Difference in how much was being used.
In 1974, 1.4 million pounds of glyphosate were used in U.S. agriculture. By 2014, that number had grown to 276 million pounds.
Became the world's most widely used weed killer, and Monsanto's profits just went through the roof.
Roundup was responsible for half of Monsanto's total sales in 2000. It was called a savior for the farmer because it was so effective while supposedly being safer than other pesticides.
There were some people associated with Monsanto who would describe it as safe enough to drink.
You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually.
That came really from a comparison to a rival weed killer called Paraquat that was sold by a competitor to Monsanto. And Paraquat, very much if you would swallow even a teaspoon of it, you would be dead within a matter of weeks.
Timbo, you can cite that source for me, I'm sure.
But Monsanto marketed Roundup as an alternative that was safe for humans and the environment.
They say, oh, it disappears when it hits the soil, so that makes it safe.
I've learned in my life, if it kills insects, if it kills weeds, kills fungus, it can't be helpful to you.
Jim Huberger grew up working on his family's farm, where they used Roundup to control weeds in their soybean fields and later at a plant nursery.
Jim would use a backpack to use Roundup around those areas in the pot and around the greenhouse.
In 2022, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer with links to glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup.
For people who don't know non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's not curable. You could treat it. You could put it into remission, but it's not curable.
The cancer risks of pesticides like glyphosate have been hidden from the public for decades.
The first hint that this chemical...
Ooh, it's gonna be one of those days I can fucking feel it. Tim, I didn't make the fucking claim, bitch. You made the claim. You cite the source. Okay. Are you talking about the military one specifically, or are you talking about a different one in the private sector? Because the military is going to be different than the private sector, won't it? Okay, that's what I thought. Cite the source or cry.
May not be as safe as people thought, really was back in the 1980s.
Back in 1985, one study submitted to the EPA revealed that mice who were given glyphosate developed tumors.
You could see that the EPA scientists at that time were very worried about this product and thought that it looked like it could be oncogenic, that it could cause cancer.
The EPA issued a memo listing glyphosate as a Category C oncogen, meaning it was possibly carcinogenic to humans. But Monsanto didn't just accept these findings. They lobbied for the EPA to change its findings for 6 years, which it did.
The EPA ultimately capitulated to Monsanto and said, all right, we'll discount those findings and we will agree with you that it doesn't cause cancer.
But that was just the start of a decades-long battle over the science. Soon, more and more studies came out that seemed to prove glyphosate was, in fact, safe. In 2000, a study by 3 well-regarded scientists concluded glyphosate posed no indication of any human health concern.
What we found is that it really was not an independent study at all. It was actually ghostwritten by Monsanto's own scientists. And the word ghostwritten didn't come from me or from outsiders, but actually came from Monsanto, talking about how we ghostwrote that paper.
It very much reminds me of the days when you had scientists, right? Same situation. Scientists coming out when they were trying to put regulations on, how do I say this? Not TikTok getting mad. Inhaling carcinogens. Let's say that. Inhaling carcinogens. And you had scientists coming out and saying, no, it's actually good for you to do so. And what we learned is that they were funded by the tobacco companies. They were funded by, and scientists specifically hired within the tobacco companies. So this is why we have to cite our sources, Tim. And this is why we have to read the sources that we have. And this is why when you find sources that you think agree with you, you should actually look for alternative studies to combat that, see what the consensus in the scientific community is. Consensus is also a big deal. So that is what this reminds me of, is that they went through and they're like, well, we'll just put out studies that say it's good for you or that it's safe, it's fine.
Monsanto did this not just once, but repeatedly for multiple years. Giving themselves the ammunition they needed to keep glyphosate classified as non-carcinogenic. But in 2015, Monsanto's narrative that glyphosate was safe started to crack.
The International Agency for Research on Cancer came out and said, we have weighed the evidence and we have determined that it is a probable human carcinogen with specific evidence of links to non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
IARC's classification of glyphosate as a probable carcinogen was groundbreaking. It directly contradicted the EPA's position and led to several countries restricting glyphosate's use or banning it entirely, but not the United States.
You saw them emails in which Monsanto is sending talking points to the EPA. The company is telling the EPA what to say and when to say it and how it should say it.
The EPA maintained its stance on glyphosate, but the IARC announcement paved the way for something much more American.
Jury selection is underway in a case that pits a Bay Area man against the chemical giant company Monsanto.
IARC's ruling sparked a wave of lawsuits against Monsanto for failing to warn consumers that Roundup contained chemicals that could cause cancer. Monsanto executives were looking for a way out.
Monsanto very actively was working to sell the company. The executives were looking, to rake in as much as they could and jump ship. And Bayer, came a-calling and was a very willing buyer.
Bayer, the German company, they want to buy Monsanto.
This is a merger that would create the world's largest agricultural supplier.
Bayer, the $57 billion.
Ugh, not the Maria Bartiromo jump scare. You see, she always had kind of a whiny voice, but she didn't yell. She didn't always yell. It's nice to know that wasn't always the case.
The German company, they want to buy Monsanto.
This is a merger that would create the world's largest agricultural supplier.
Bayer, the $57 billion German conglomerate, bought Monsanto in 2018. Just months later, the company settled the first major Roundup lawsuit for a whopping $289 million.
The investors were furious, and it created an uproar for Bayer, and that has not subsided.
So far, Bayer has paid out a total of $10 billion in Roundup lawsuits.
I don't like lawsuits. Sometimes it's what it takes to get something changed.
After his diagnosis, Jim got in touch with a lawyer and filed a lawsuit against Monsanto in 2023.
My pay hurt terribly. The money that we lost from lost wages, I would just love to have that money that we lost.
Real quick, I just wanted to say a thank you to Chris and Peter. Thank you guys so much for subscribing over there on Twitch. I appreciate you guys so very much. Also, thank you over to Rum Runner on the in the YouTube chat. We have not even gotten to that subject yet. Again, I said I'm going to do what I'm going to do on health first because there's other shit going on within the world of health besides the bullshit political theater that we are going to talk about today. But I appreciate you, Rum Runner, for actually doing the research that Timbo refuses to do. So thank you for that.
It didn't take long for Monsanto's lawyers to come to Jim with a lowball settlement offer.
Jim and I, we couldn't believe it. We had to call our lawyer back again and said, what is this? And our lawyer said that Monsanto counts on the people that are getting tired of waiting, maybe old, and maybe thinking, am I going to still be alive to finish up with this lawsuit?
Bayer has settled around 114,000 Roundup lawsuits. Roughly 67,000 cases still remain. Bayer told us it stands behind the safety of its glyphosate-based products, and to provide a cancer warning on Roundup product materials would be misleading, confusing, and just plain false.
The company did have conversations with some of the leading plaintiffs' attorneys in the litigation. And the plaintiffs' attorneys really said, if we're going to achieve a global settlement, if we're really going to put an end to this litigation, the way to do it is for Bayer to put, a very definitive and detailed warning label on its products. But Bayer has resisted that and continued to, search for other ways to end the litigation, and really just does not want to put a warning label on these products.
Instead, Bayer's quietly embarked on a 5-step plan to end the lawsuits without having to put a warning label on Roundup.
Iowa State senators passed a bill to protect pesticide companies from lawsuits. Senate Bill 394 would protect the companies from civil liability if their warning labels are registered with the EPA.
Essentially what they're saying is if there's a label that's been approved by the EPA, you're not eligible to sue us for any damages.
In 2025, legislators in 11 states introduced bills to effectively give legal immunity to pesticide makers.
It doesn't take long to see Bayer's fingerprints all over this.
Austin Baith is a Democratic state representative in Iowa. He's also a palliative care doctor who works with cancer patients.
This is something that makes absolutely no political sense for a politician here in Iowa, when we're in the middle of a cancer crisis, to be supporting a bill that protects a potential culprit of our cancer crisis.
To have a big multinational corporation with the extremely deep pockets come in and try and say, oh, we need protection from litigation for these things, seems very disingenuous, if not outright insulting.
It felt like they aren't being held liable for this, and I was angry, very angry.
Whether you talk to a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or somebody who doesn't care about politics at all, and you tell them the basics of this bill, they think it's dumb. They think it's dumb that we give legal protections to a corporation while Iowans are suffering from cancer.
Josh, this is, I don't know that it has a specific name, but this is from More Perfect Union. They specifically released this on June 25th. This was after the Supreme Court blocked the thousands of lawsuits claiming Roundup causes cancer. More Perfect Union is amazing, but they do a lot of videos across a lot of topics. So this one is specifically about glyphosate, though, but it's from More Perfect Union. And guys, remember that I do post all of these in my live outline on my Discord after the live is finished. I tried to post them in order as best I can as we go through them. But yeah, there's that.
In one poll, 89% of Iowans said they opposed giving chemical companies immunity from lawsuits. The bill failed in Iowa, but it was successful in 2 other states. Now in Georgia and North Dakota, no one can sue a pesticide company for failing to warn of cancer risks, as long as the company follows EPA labeling. In a statement, the EPA said the agency is currently updating its evaluation of the carcinogenic potential of glyphosate, but that the underlying scientific findings, including that glyphosate is not likely to be carcinogenic, remain the same.
Many people assume or believe or hope or want to believe, right, that the EPA is there, like other federal agencies, to protect them and to protect the environment and to protect public health. But what we have seen over many, many years, essentially since the founding of the EPA in the 1970s, is that the agency also takes into account the economic impacts of its decisions and the impacts on the corporations.
Last year, Bayer spent nearly $8.5 million lobbying the federal government. Their ultimate goal is to win protections from lawsuits at the federal level, either through...
So I would ask, this to me is the kind of subject that crosses party lines. I don't give a fuck what your party affiliation is when it comes to this. In regards to government agencies, specifically things like the EPA, the FDA, right, Blue, exactly. Are you okay with lobbying? Are you okay with having these corporations come in with all of this money to lobby these organizations within the federal government to be able to give them rulings or regulations or deregulation that is helpful to them, the corporation? My thing is if you believe in capitalism in the way that you believe that you do, then they would fail if they fail. Let them fail. Like, this idea that corporations, just because they're big, are not allowed to fail comes from this myth about people losing their jobs. Yes, people do lose their jobs when these big companies go out of business, but at least maybe we can start bringing up smaller batches of companies that don't have the lobbying power, at least get rid of the lobbying power. I think it's ridiculous that we are putting forth these chemicals that can harm our children and our future generations simply because the corporation has the money to be able to do so. I think we need to take that money out of the politics in that way. And I think that that's something we could agree upon. Democrats get lobbied, Republicans get lobbied, and we should take that power away from them. By the way, also Hard Right, I appreciate you being here and actually giving me a thumbs up for once. I know we disagree on most everything, but I appreciate it. And I wrote down to look up later. Again, I'm not in California, so I don't know about these things, but you said that warning labels, you pretty much, and I'm going to paraphrase, so if I am incorrect in my statement, please correct me, but that you are okay with warning labels, but sometimes that they can go too far. An example would be California Prop 65. I don't know anything about that, so I will look that up later just for my own well-being because I like to look at those things. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Through a bill in Congress or a rule from the EPA.
The company had sent consultants to Washington, D.C. to gauge leanings of the Trump administration during Trump's first term. And they came back, with a report that the Trump administration says it has Monsanto's back on glyphosate, were the exact words. So I don't know that we would expect anything different in the current administration.
Trump has a
My God, thank you, Queen, so much for the whale diving. I recognized the sound, but took me a minute. Thank you so much. Huge W's. Can I see W's in the chat to Queen, please? For completing out one of the big ones in my gift gallery. I appreciate you. We need. Audrey, we gotta figure out. We gotta figure out the calendar. I know. I haven't wanted to bug you because you've been busy, but I know the calendar's open. But we gotta figure out. We need to get our ass in gear because I miss hanging out with people like Queen to do deep dives and things like that. So we need to do that. I just want to hang out with my people again.
Appointed chemical industry lobbyists to key EPA roles, all but ensuring that glyphosate will remain a profit engine for Bayer.
And David, that's also fair. You said it was also based on the EPA's scientific position at the time. I would assume what you mean by that is the EPA, like the information that they have at the time, right? Yeah, and we're going to see that in way of science progressing. It can progress from 8 years ago to now, from 6 months ago to now, right? That is going to change, but we need to be able to take out the lobbyists. And I would also say, Mark, you said, because I blame individuals for not holding the representative accountable. I do too. I think that voters need to be more accountable for the people that they are voting in, especially people who do vote down ballot, but they just vote down ballot based off of their political affiliation and not actually looking at what the actual policies or the money behind these candidates. I think it's a twofer. I think we need more accountability for the voters. I do not think voters in and of themselves have enough accountability in this country, but I also think that there is not a lot of transparency, openness, education about what representatives, about their policies, and about being able to find the money that is backing them. I think that we need more transparency on that, again, for both sides of the argument, being able to look at your Democratic candidate, your Republican candidate, your independent candidate, and finding the money and educating voters on how to find that information, because you can, but educating voters on how and giving them the time with which to do so, because again, we are in capitalism and people have to work. So, it's a thing. It's supposed to be tomorrow. I keep forgetting to check in with everyone. Oh, okay.
No matter the cost.
EPA being a governmental organization that works under the president is very impressionable to political pressures.
The question now is if legislators in Congress will bend to Bayer's influence and rewrite the law to protect the company. If they do, it could mark the beginning of a new era, where multinational companies can put profit over safety and never pay the price.
It's the people versus the corporation. It's the people versus the well-heeled politicians. This is kind of a test. This is a test to see how our government really works.
Anytime that you start looking at anything that's a special interest over the benefit of what does the most good for the most people, you're making a bad decision.
The right thing is to admit that this product is a carcinogen. You've made lots of money with this product. Now let's make it right with these people who have lost time, money, and their lives.
All right. Love More Perfect Union. They are really great in their reporting on all sorts of topics, all sorts of subjects. And I really, really enjoy them. Hard Right, you said we also look into why the Amish community is so healthy, probably because they don't eat a lot of preservatives. I would have to see studies on that. We do know that, I guess it would definition of healthy, right? What is the definition of healthy? How often are they being seen at a doctor's office? They might come off as healthier because they go, let's say, 4 times a year versus the average person going 8 times. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that those would be things we would have to look into to find the correlation versus the causation kind of a deal. And as we saw with the lack of vaccination within their community is why we saw an increase and spread in measles within the community. Sparky says because they're always active and don't go to the doctor. Right. So again, it becomes, and we will talk about it later in regards to the panini. I'm going to try to pick my words carefully because we're going to hear the C word a lot later, is that it's kind of the same concept of if you don't test for it, you'll never have it, right? Like if I never get tested for the panini, I'm never going to have the panini. So yeah, I would want to see causation versus correlation in regards to that. But I'm not a person who is against, taking preservatives out of food. The problem with that is that we have an entire population of people that we need to be able to feed, and it's really, really hard to do that with fresh products. On top of that, again, just there's so much nuance between health and food. Things like glyphosate, things like pesticides, being able to have the purest of pure. We are the kind of society, unfortunately, we don't do a sustenance diet. We don't do a necessary diet, I guess is the word I'm going to use for it, in way of like what is in season, right? We don't do that. We want to have strawberries all year. We want to have watermelon all year round. Yeah, granted, there will be a smaller bucket of watermelon because it's not in season, but we still want to have it all year round, right? Like Americans are not very good at going, no, we don't get strawberries for these next few months because they're not in season. And so we use up our farmland, we use up our resources to ensure that we have a plethora of abundance in America instead of teaching people how to do it a different way. And which I would say, I understand why people do that, because again, then that is the government encroaching on your freedom to be able to have strawberries every year. I don't know. Grow it in your backyard. I am anti-HOA completely, in way of, if like we've torn out a portion. This is going on a rant, I apologize, but we have torn up almost half of our backyard to build a garden because fuck you. And even though our HOA says we can't, guess what? That doesn't have anything to do with our state legislature, that we're allowed to do what we want. So, I would say being able to do these things, people don't grow for themselves. They're reliant on grocery stores now. You have food deserts. You have these things that kind of put people in a position where they are eating preservatives or eating cheaper made foods because they have to. Get a greenhouse and fuck the HOA. We do say fuck the HOA because our state laws supersede what the HOA is. The HOA has no enforcement mechanism in regards to that versus our state laws. But yeah, we had a greenhouse, to be fair. It got blown away and the wind was so strong that the bars bent. So now my husband just has a regular garden. But anyway, so this is a video on RFK Jr. We're continuing on before we get to the other stuff. And as we saw in More Perfect Union, we were talking to a Democratic representative in Iowa. This is RFK talking about the cancer rate in Iowa. And he even says that farmers understand the connection between spraying toxic chemicals on their crops and their own personal health. And yet he was working within an administration that pushed forth and lobbied for being able to have these companies spray the chemicals on the crops. It is hypocrisy at the highest level. He sold out his original values. I don't know why. Maybe it was the cocaine. I'm not sure.
Knew of other tests.
Oh, good. So there'll be beef jerky tough. I like that. And the farmers are going to clean everything up. We're going to grow really...
Tony, unfortunately, these are questions you would have to ask my husband. It is not my garden. It is my husband's garden. You're asking, are you going to grow any hot chilies? I don't know. I know that we had... a friend of his had issues because it's been so hot in Colorado, like so hot in Colorado. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. He's going to brag about his garden. You just set off his tism. Look what you did, Tony. Hi.
My chilies are dead.
Did they die? The heat?
Yeah, it's too fucking hot.
What's I was going to ask him what's growing well, but I have no clue. I know we've got pumpkins, but they're kind of in the shade. Oh, payback. We've got pumpkins. They're kind of in the shade. We have a grapevine that's growing, so that's really fun.
Yeah, a bunch of squashes. I get 2 strawberries a week, which the kids split. Tomatoes are doing good. Garlic, onions. Yeah, cabbage, lettuce. I got grapes. I got one little bunch of grapes.
One little bunch. Well, because grapes take years to
freaking years.
Yeah, so that's gonna take time.
Maybe by the time the grapes are ready, we'll all get one grape.
Yay! I'm so excited. All right. Thank you for that information.
All right, bye.
Go back to RFK and spraying and the, again, hypocrisy between him and the administration. No, I don't think we can grow peaches here. I don't think we have the climate for that. He's been trying to do watermelon here for years. Don't
know of other tests.
Oh, good. So they'll be beef jerky tough. I like that. And the farmers are going to clean everything up. We're going to grow really natural, healthy products.
President Trump this week signed an executive order ordering my agency, HHS, EPA, and the NUSDA to scale regenerative farming in this country. We have the 4 best regenerative farmers in the country in the Oval Office. They alone have converted tens of millions of acres to regenerative farming. It improves yields. It improves profitability per acre of their farms. It opens up foreign markets to their product. It preserves their soils. And we only have 60 harvests left at the rate that we're going because the pesticides and the herbicides destroy the soils. It produces much higher density of micronutrients in the food, and it keeps the farmers safe. Right now, the highest cancer rate in the world is in Iowa.
Wow.
Farmers understand the connection between spraying toxic chemicals on their crops and their own personal health. And, you know,
so farmers understand it. Does the administration understand it? Because it doesn't seem like they do, because they were touting the SCOTUS decision as a win. Even though what it does is it's going to block people from being able to sue Monsanto for the connection between glyphosate and cancer. So the farmers might understand it, RFK, but does the administration that you work in? There's my goddamn visibility again. It's ridiculous.
This candidate, Zach Lane, won the Republican primary. He came from nowhere. He's a farmer, and he was campaigning on this issue. So the farmers also are supporting us.
Very good.
Well, babe, I mean, you said the farmers don't get it either, or they wouldn't grow monocultures and deplete their land. Sure, but the government also gives them a lot of incentive to do that. Puts them in a bad position to do that, to be fair. Okay, continuing on. This, I put it in health because I just thought it made the most sense. I'm going to try and show it quick and then move down. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read... I'm going to read the title, and then we'll go down to the actual thing, because the picture's not great for TikTok. New Mexico governor calls for criminal probe of the DEA, allowing Fenty shipments to hit the streets. Okay? So let's get into that. New Mexico's governor on Wednesday, this was June 24th, New Mexico governor on Wednesday called for a criminal investigation into the Drug Enforcement Administration after an Associated Press investigation found federal agents allowed hundreds of thousands of F-Rug pills to reach the streets over a 2-year period while pursuing larger drug trafficking cases. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham asked the state's attorney general to examine whether the agency's actions violated New Mexico law, an extraordinary challenge to a federal law enforcement agency at a time when F-Rug remains one of the country's deadliest public health threats. The request follows an AP investigation that found DEA agents repeatedly allowed major F-Rug shipments to continue moving through New Mexico between 2023 and 2025 rather than seize them immediately, as agents sought to build cases against higher-ranking traffickers. The governor's call for a criminal review turns a debate over drug enforcement tactics into a question of whether federal agents themselves crossed legal lines while pursuing larger trafficking organizations. What is it called? Unoriginal content, Donovan. So, they are looking into investigating with and suing the DEA because the DEA was letting shipments go through in order to try to catch the big fish, right? But I thought that this administration specifically, all administrations, but this administration specifically, was really, really big on ensuring that no F-Rug was coming into the country and that no F-Rug was being trafficked around, right? That it was part of the excuse between F-Rug and cocaina about why we are bombing ships in the Caribbean, okay? When there's just a whole nother issue we got to get into sometime next week or the week after. But the DEA themselves is allowing these shipments to go through so that they can try to get bigger cases and higher ranking cases in regards to the FRUG. You cool with that? Current and former DEA agents told AP the strategy amounted to a gamble with public safety in a state ravaged by the FRUG epidemic and may have violated U.S. Justice Department rules intended to safeguard the public from a drug the White House last year designated as a weapon of mass destruction. Quote, there are no words to describe how reckless and dangerous these decisions were, Lujan Grisham said in a statement. Make no mistake, the DEA knew people would die if these pills made it into New Mexico communities, and the agency let it happen anyway. The DEA did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the governor's statement. The agency has contended it would not be plausible to seize every drug shipment and previously told AP in a statement the investigative decisions at issue were lawful, reasonable under the circumstances, and consistent with department guidance. Public descriptions suggesting that DEA knowingly permitted FRUG to reach communities are false and fundamentally mischaracterize the facts, DEA spokesperson Amanda Wozniak wrote in an email. Alex Ubaez, who served as U.S. Attorney in New Mexico from May 2022 until February 2025, told AP that drugs went unseized at times due to his office's limited resources and his belief that prosecuting larger organizations has a bigger impact than intercepting every suspected drug transaction. So yeah, get the big fish. That's what they went with. It is not clear whether any fatal overdoses in the state can be directly attributed to the DEA strategy. While overdose deaths nationwide fell 14% last year, government data show New Mexico tallied a 21% spike. New Mexican lives are not the federal government's cost of doing business, the governor wrote in her statement. I plan to hold the federal government accountable for this disaster and would explore every possible avenue of action against the federal government to right these wrongs. The AP investigation cited 3 current and former agents of government records, including an internal report of a 2023 delivery of 74,000 pills that the DEA surveilled but did not seize at a mobile home park in Albuquerque. DEA whistleblower David Howell, who filed a complaint drawing attention to the unseized FRUG, spoke Wednesday with congressional staffers. Empower Oversight and Whistleblower Advocacy Group representing Howell has asked the Senate Judiciary Committee and Justice Department's Office of Inspector General to investigate the agent's allegations. Senator Bernie Moreno, a Ohio Republican, who, by the way, has a lot that he needs to be dealing with today, instead of saying the F word, instead of saying fuck, in front of congressional hearings today, he should probably worry about his fucking daughter, who had her was held at gunpoint to her head by a man running for Congress. Maybe Senator Bernie Moreno should worry about that. But Senator Bernie Moreno, a Ohio Republican, called Howell's revelations a scandal of the highest order and said in a post on X he plans to find out how many American lives were lost due to the DEA's inaction. That I'm fine with. Again, across the aisle. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care about your political affiliation. If the DEA, regardless of the administration, is not doing their job, they need to be held accountable. Meanwhile, victims groups also spoke out about DEA's inaction, saying its approach in New Mexico contradicts the agency's prominent one pill can kill campaign that warns as little as a few milligrams of FRUG can cause a fatal overdose. Knowing the Justice Department had guidelines to seize the opioids whenever practical and the fact these were ignored is truly heartbreaking, said Michael Glaunia, who lost his daughter to FRUG in 2023 and founded a nonprofit organization to support families suffering similar losses. So I want to see an investigation of that. I would like to see a congressional committee hearing on that, and having people who are in charge of the DEA or people who were in charge of the DEA under the Biden administration come in. I would like to see that. All right, moving on, I have a couple things here on Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. talking about health insurance. Now, we have an issue. Nobody would ever deny that there's fraud. If there's human beings, there is most likely fraud. So what we have to determine is the rate with which the fraud is happening and how to stop it. Or do we have a system that is pretty well set up to filter out that fraud? What we have right now is RFK Jr., but specifically Dr. Oz, because he was put in charge of it with J.D. Vance, talking about a mass amount of fraud. So now I'm going to give you what they say is an example of fraud and see if you would call that fraud.
Historically, Obamacare had 9 million people on it. 9 million people. This year, over 23 million people apparently signed up. But of the people who signed up, 40% never used the insurance. Let me ask you a question, John. You have health insurance. Do you use it once a year? Buy a prescription, you go visit a doctor, call somebody?
If I don't use it once a day.
What is the ACA? What is it? I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm gonna wait for a second. While I wait, let me make sure this isn't anything that I don't. Okay, so I'm just gonna say Donald, because that's what you gave me, and I don't want to dox you. But W's to Donald for the $5. You said, this way you get all of it better. Yes, that is a much better way to support me, is through the pay links in my bio, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. So thank you so much, Donald, for the $5. I appreciate it, guys. It gets me down to 120. I have been on for an hour, and which means we have not hit that $50 an hour mark, and I would appreciate it if we could start working on that, especially since you can't gift. We're having issues, and we did not hit 100,000 likes within that first hour of tapping. You guys couldn't even gift me, and yet we did not hit 100,000 taps within an hour. What are we doing? Like, I know it's Wednesday, but what are we doing? Sure, yeah, Chris, but what did the ACA do? What does it provide? So let's get tapping, because we're behind. And let's start $1 train, $2 training to get my goal down, guys. This is my labor that I'm going to have to deal with, and I promise you I'm going to have to deal with some bullshit here coming up after we get past this stuff. It's not going to be fun. If you're watching over on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button for me if you have not already. I would appreciate it. It does help push us on to the algorithm over there on YouTube, so I would appreciate it so very much. Thank you. Okay. What is this? Did anybody say, or are you guys just arguing in the chat? So the ACA gave you access to a marketplace. Right. Okay. Thank you, Chris. It provides affordable access to insurance. Right. Affordable access to insurance. However, that doesn't mean you don't have to pay copays. It doesn't mean you don't have to pay premiums or deductibles. So the issue that I have is that Dr. Oz is trying to incorrectly correlate 40% of people not using the insurance through the ACA as fraud. You can have insurance and never use it. That doesn't mean that it's fraud. You can just choose not to use it. I actually went to the doctor for the first time in 2 years this year. Why? Because I just haven't had the fucking time between my children's insurance, or between my children's appointments. Yes, I need to take better care of myself. I go to the dentist every 6 months, though. But it is not fraud to just not use your insurance.
Signed up, 40% never use the insurance. Let me ask you a question, John. You have health insurance. Do you use it once a year? Buy a prescription, you go visit a doctor, call somebody?
If I don't use it once a day, it's pretty infrequent.
Well, in Obamacare right now, 40% of the people ostensibly signed up never use the insurance. So it raises, again, the reality that there are many people who are signed up who are getting paid for but don't believe they have the insurance, don't know they have insurance, didn't want the insurance, and these brokers...
That's a great analogy, Blue. I haven't had to use my car insurance in years. Fraud! It's fraud. Why haven't you used your car insurance? That's wild. Why haven't you used it? Oh. Maybe because you just have it. Actually, what is the definition? I'm just wondering. I'm literally just curious and on the fly. I just want to look. Let's look it up here. I just want to see. Insurance, a coverage by contract whereby one party undertakes to indemnify or guarantee another against loss by a specified contingency or peril, the business of insuring persons or property, the sum for which something is insured. I don't know why you're using it in the definition. A means of guaranteeing protection or safety. Does that mean you have to use it? I don't think that means you have to use it, Dr. Oz. I think that's the problem that you're having, is you can't just say fraud.
Brokers are able to make a ton of money off the American taxpayer. So,
ooh, I got called a leftist witch. I love that for me. I love that for me.
Of course, the Democrats are arguing aggressively that any people who leave Obamacare is only happening because of the enhanced premium subsidies that were put in place for a short period of time during COVID by the Democrats. That's not right. The reality is we have a lot of fake people on the policies. We want them off because they don't want the insurance. They're covered elsewhere, or at least they never wanted to be in this program. If they want other ones, it's fine. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. And what Secretary Kennedy announced on this video is really critical. Yeah. 1 million people with fake Social Security numbers, that's an insult to the American people. We're not going to tolerate it.
Now, that's a claim that he's making that I would like to see proven, because I have not seen it proven. Pose for my witch hat. Did I say still enough for you? Don't blink, don't breathe. I am going to add this in here real quick because I totally forgot that I meant to add this in here this morning. I got distracted with the hearing. By the way, Trump administration ending Medicare premium subsidy program. This one's reported today, but I heard it yesterday. The Trump administration on Tuesday said it would move to end a Biden-era Medicare premium subsidy program, alleging it benefited insurance companies more than enrollees. As a result, Medicare Part D subsidies will expire at the end of the year and no longer be offered in 2027. Medicare Part D is optional prescription drug coverage offered by private insurance companies to help people with Medicare pay for brand name and generic medications. It is available as a standalone plan to add to original Medicare or as part of a bundled Medicare Advantage plan. This is for old people. Or elderly, excuse me. You have to be over a certain age for Medicare. The program was restructured under former President Biden to implement a $2,000 annual cap on out-of-pocket spending on prescription drugs. It also permitted Medicare to negotiate prices for certain high-cost Part D drugs. The majority of enrollees in the subsidy program were seniors or those with disabilities who are now awaiting information regarding new monthly prices. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said it's expecting to release details on costs in mid to late September. Remember, the person in charge of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is Dr. Oz. In 2027, the national average monthly bid amount will be $296.05 per the agency's announcement and will influence the federal government's direct subsidy payments to insurance plans. For 2027, the base beneficiary premium will be $41.33. About 25 million Americans carry standalone Part D drug plans, according to Reuters. We are stabilizing the market, so this bailout is no longer needed. Premiums will go up by less than $10 for most recipients, with many even seeing lower premiums. CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz wrote in a Tuesday post on the social platform X. Every Medicare beneficiary still has access to low-cost plans, and we will continue to lower prescription drug prices for every American patient, from more MFN deals to our policy giving seniors access to GLP-1s for $50 a month, he added. Which is an interesting thing to say when we have Trump's truth that he is going to have 0% tariffs on generic drugs for 2 years, and then a 100% tariff on generic drugs for 1 year, and then 200% tariffs thereafter. Actually, what we're going to do, because I have them, but I don't want to search for them through my page. So we're going to search for them here real quick, just real quick.
That are getting Medicaid that shouldn't be getting it. And nobody objects to taking people off Medicaid that aren't allowed to be there. But we are doing absolutely nothing to hurt Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. Nothing.
We're not going to hurt Social Security. Okay.
To our great seniors, and I will never let anyone touch your Medicare or your Social Security.
I'm sorry, what? One more time?
We're going to protect our great seniors, and I will never let anyone touch your Medicare or your Social Security.
Okay. Sure. Oh, well, this is a good one because you remember this is why we don't care.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up, but it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. Because the United
Military protection, that's what matters. So I'm going to put that over here. So yeah, he's coming after Medicare. Medicare Part D, your prescription drugs. He's coming after it. When he said he wanted. So then RFK Jr. Comes out and he says that they found 1 million people enrolled in Medicaid, which is different from Medicare, Medicaid who had no Social Security numbers. I would just like the source. I'm going to play him saying it, but I want the source.
So this week, we found 1 million people enrolled in Medicaid who had no Social Security numbers.
Whoa.
So that means those people probably don't exist. It was just insurance companies and brokers stealing from our agency.
Wow.
So
Prove that and go after them. The system worked. You caught them. Like, if that's true, the system worked. But yet, how? How? How did that happen? Well, under Biden. Anyway. All right, continuing on. A few more things. This is PBS This is PBS NewsHour. Okay, a PBS NewsHour video on the Cyclospora outbreak that we have seen. I just haven't been able to cover it yet, so I wanted to cover it. Guys, as we're sitting here, thank you so much on TikTok for hitting 100,000 likes. Thank you guys for getting there. I appreciate it. Keep doing the things, because I'm very disappointed in you about how behind you are. I really, really am. So let's make sure that we are doing the things and tapping that screen for me. I would appreciate it. I know that we can't gift right now. That sucks. TikTok is really just ruining their own platform. It's just what's happening. So
31 states are now reporting cases.
Sherry, you said you can't enroll someone without a social security number. Exactly. So they're going to switch their claim then, Sherry. What they're going to say is that, oh, well, they had fake ones. Like, that's what they're going to say now.
Of a parasitic intestinal disease that is making life miserable for those who contract it. And while the U.S. has seen outbreaks of cyclosporiasis in the past, the some 4,000 reported cases this summer are much higher than normal and raising real concerns about the illness. William Brangham has more on what you need to know.
Right now, officials can't pinpoint the exact source or sources of this outbreak. It's a food or waterborne disease caused by a...
To be clear, this was early in the outbreak before they started getting testing on where it came from.
Parasite, Cyclospora. And pinpointing precisely where it's coming from is a challenge. Michigan is bearing the brunt with more than 2,600 reported cases, including 44 that have landed people in the hospital. Joining us to explain what all this means and how to stay healthy is Dr. Omer Awan. He's at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Dr. Awan, thank you so much for being here. To start off with, if I were to ingest this parasite, how do I know that I've got it? What are the symptoms people should look out for?
Well, the typical symptoms, William, are things like nausea, fatigue, bloating, and of course, explosive, watery diarrhea. And that's the symptom that's been getting a lot of attention because this is really different because most stomach bugs, usually the watery diarrhea lasts about 2 or 3 days. With the cases of cyclosporiasis, the diarrhea can last weeks, if not months. And that's what makes this so problematic. And if you have diarrhea for more than perhaps 2 or 3 days, you should really talk to your doctor, get tested, and get treated so that you can feel better.
Greg, I would really like it if you would stay on subject, but you said the DNC is putting up their building for collateral while being millions in debt. Do you think they will get it? Do I think they'll get what? Because I'm not sure what the question is in regards to that. Yeah, the DNC is desperately in debt. Ken Martin is the DNC chair. He needs to fucking step down. He absolutely needs to step down and let somebody else come in and be in charge because it's not like they're not taking in money. They're not taking in as much as they have in the past, but they have taken in money. The question is, what are they doing with that money and where is it going? But yeah, they do have a loan that they took out. I think it was like a $15 million loan, I want to say 15. I don't think it was 50. I know there's a F sound in there, but I think it was $15 million loan that they took out that they're going to have to start paying on this upcoming month. They're going to have to start paying on, I believe it's like almost $1,500,000 they're going to have to start paying on it every single month. They're desperately in debt. Yeah, desperately. Yep. Maybe they should message better. Maybe Ken Martin should quit. Is it 50 million? Is it? I might have been incorrect, Greg. Maybe it was 50 million that they're going to have to start paying on. But Ken Martin needs to step down. Absolutely.
And I understand that the incubation period for the parasite's eggs, once they're in your body, it can take days or even a week or more for you to start showing symptoms, which seems like it makes it very difficult to identify what thing it was that you ate or drank that caused the problem.
That's exactly right. The incubation period can be anywhere from 2 days to 14 days. So that's 2 weeks. So many of us don't really remember what we ate 2 weeks ago. I mean, I can't even remember what I ate 2 weeks ago. So it's very problematic and it makes it challenging to really know and track down what's causing these cases. And that's exactly why the CDC and the United States don't know exactly what the source is for all these thousands of cases, because we don't know exactly what food, what produce, or what brand is leading to all these cases that we're seeing here currently in the United States.
I mean, as we've mentioned, this is not a new bug. We've seen outbreaks of this before, but this one seems particularly large. Do you have a sense as to why this one's so big?
Well, one of the reasons is exactly what we just stated, William, that we don't know what the source is. We don't know what the exact produce is or the brand of the produce. Now, historically, most cases have been related to contaminated food from produce, things like lettuce, cilantro, basil, raspberries even, but we haven't pinned that down. And because we haven't pinned it down, that means that these cases are likely to disseminate. People are still eating the contaminated food that's leading to so many cases. The other is the incubation period that we talked about. Because the incubation period can be 2 weeks, even if we were to stop and contain the source today, there would still be increased cases a week from now, 2 weeks from now, because of this incubation period. And then finally, what I would say is that this usually peaks in the summer. Cyclosporiasis usually thrives on heat and humidity. And we typically see a lot of cases from May to August. Certainly not the magnitude.
Like I said, Ryu, this was before there was a target of a trace of where it came from. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, if I remember correctly, it was starting to kind of come about that it was probably lettuce, but and people started saying Taco Bell, but I think Taco Bell came out and they pulled all their and again, I could be wrong. I thought Taco Bell came out and pulled all of their produce off of their stuff just in case, as a just in case measure, until we got the Taylor Farms thing, which then we'll talk about in a minute.
That we're seeing currently, but we do see cases in these summer months.
Some critics have pointed out that CDC last year
Oh, Shanti, I start at 9 Mountain Time now, so actually I've almost been on for an hour and a half.
stepped back from some of its foodborne sort of poison pathogen surveillance. Is that contributing to this problem at all or not?
I would say absolutely it is, William.
Although, Shanti, to be fair, I was on for 10 minutes and I got my gift extended.
For a couple reasons. One is, remember that the HHS and the federal government laid off a lot of CDC employees. Many of them were the very employees that would track these particular outbreaks. And the other is that from July of 2025 last year, the CDC has no longer required reporting cyclosporiasis. It's become optional to report this to the CDC's Foodborne Disease Active Surveillance Network.
So listen to that. That is what I want you guys to listen to, is what has gone on within the CDC now under this administration, what they stopped, which, by the way, Ficolis has talked about this since the beginning of the Trump administration after he was inaugurated in January. He has talked about this since 2025, which is that we stopped scanning for certain foodborne illnesses, except for 2 of them, I believe, and we dropped all the other ones, and that we were not reporting these comeuppances to the CDC. So there were issues within the administration itself about what we were scanning for and what was being reported. Again, I will always say, Ficolis talked about this at the beginning of 2025, as soon as the CDC started doing it, is that we stopped scanning for foodborne illnesses except for 2 of them.
This problem at all or not?
I would say absolutely it is, William, for a couple reasons. One is, remember that the HHS and the federal government laid off a lot of CDC employees. Many of them were the very employees that would track these particular outbreaks. And the other is that from July of 2025 last year, the CDC has no longer required reporting cyclosporiasis. It's become optional to report this to the CDC's Foodborne Disease Active Surveillance Network. So this is precisely why we don't have a good handle of exactly the number of cases. If you remember, the CDC has reported less than 1,000 cases, but we know that there are more than 3,000 or 4,000 cases. I mean, there are more than 2,600 cases in Michigan alone. So the states have more of an accurate representation than actually even the federal government, the CDC. So these 2 reasons are really the main reasons why our response outbreak has really been hampered for cyclosporiasis.
You mentioned that people should go see their doctor if they have these symptoms. We should say this is not a fatal illness, and there is an antibiotic treatment for it. But what kinds of things should people do to try to protect themselves?
The good news is that there are treatments available. You typically take a antibiotic known as Bactrim for about 7 to 10 days. Overwhelmingly, most people feel much better. Their symptoms resolve with maybe a week treatment of antibiotics. There's a lot of common sense tactics that people can use. One, of course, is just washing your hands for 20 seconds, making sure that we wash produce with running water, making sure you really scrub that produce, refrigerating produce as soon as you get back from the grocery store. But ultimately, the only way you can really eliminate cyclosporiasis is by cooking it at a temperature of 158 degrees Fahrenheit. If you do that, you eliminate it. But just by doing those simple common sense measures, you can significantly reduce your chances of getting cyclosporiasis.
Dr. Omar Awan of the University of Maryland.
All right, so we had that. And then let's go to CNN doing coverage on the slow response by the administration to the cyclosporiasis outbreak. We're going to do that. Guys, as we're sitting in here, there's 101 of you in here. Can we please keep tapping that screen? I know we cannot gift. I understand that. But we need to be tapping the screen. There are men on. Also, I have 120 left in my goal, and I have been on for an hour and a half. If we could please start $1 training or $2 training to pay for women's labor on this app, I would appreciate it. Please. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all the link trees in my bio. We need to start working on getting that down, guys. This is my job. It's what I do for a living. I know you are, Audie. And I appreciate it. And that's the thing. That's the hard thing, is because the people who are here, and I love you all, and I appreciate you all so very much. I just get very frustrated. I'm done with the blood sport. I'm fucking done with it. The fact that you guys want to sit there and watch that, I don't know why. I don't fucking know why. By the way, I'm going to be changing my background hopefully this upcoming week. So that is not a question, because I don't really care why you support a sexually abused 34 count felon who's not doing anything beneficial for the American people. I just don't care anymore. All right. Back to the job, which is informing you on the news, things you might have missed.
CNN investigation finds that Trump administration cuts created a, quote, perfect storm for a slowed government response to the parasitic outbreak. That's according to a source. The cases are concentrated in the Midwest, but more than half of states are reporting cyclospora infections, which cause explosive diarrhea and major cramps. And we wouldn't get to TMI there, except you need to know that information, because those are the hallmarks of what we're dealing with here. A former federal lab official told CNN that the cuts led to, quote, the loss of specialized staff and the loss of hands on deck needed to identify the source of the outbreaks. Here's one example of the lagging response. The first cases of the parasite, they actually began way back in mid-May. The state of Michigan, which is the epicenter of the outbreak, issued its warning on July 1st. But it took...
That is my favorite, though. Jimbo, you said those 34 convictions were overturned, sweetie. Prove that, sweetie. Prove that they were overturned, babe.
2 weeks before the CDC...
You guys, in the cope. He is a 34 count felon. He was adjudicated. He was sentenced. It happened. Okay. So then I had this article, and then we will get to the juicy, meaty stuff that people want to do. All right. Not standard for Taylor Farms to ask White House to delay cyclospora recall, ex-FDA head says. Former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb said on Sunday that it was not standard operating procedure for Taylor Farms to ask the White House to intervene as the company prepared to announce a recall tied to a huge cyclospora outbreak. Appearing on CBS's Face the Nation, Gottlieb was asked about a report from the Wall Street Journal that Taylor Farms contacted the White House seeking to delay a recall announcement while federal investigators were preparing to publicly link the company to a multi-state outbreak. It was not standard operating procedure, Gottlieb said, and it wasn't standard operating procedure when I was at the FDA. I dealt with outbreaks in romaine lettuce and spinach as well, E. coli in spinach and romaine lettuce. I never heard from the White House on those things other than to have discussions to inform them of what we were doing so that they were properly briefed and could respond to questions that they were getting, Gottlieb said. So it's unusual. According to the Journal, representatives for Taylor Farms contacted the White House, requesting more time before the government publicly linked the company to the outbreak. The report said the White House asked FDA officials to join the call, during which Taylor Farms argued that federal investigators lacked positive laboratory evidence connecting its products to the outbreak and expressed concerns that the government was overstating the company's responsibility. The company sought the meeting after executives believed they had not received sufficient clarity from the FDA about the evidence supporting a potential recall and its scope, according to a person familiar with the matter cited by the Journal. The recall associated with the Cyclospora outbreak has been fraught with confusing messaging. The iceberg lettuce was initially linked to a single supplier, Taylor Farms de Mexico, which issued a voluntary recall. However, the FDA issued an update last week. Lettuce that was not part of the recall had tested positive for Cyclospora, but a day later, the FDA deleted that line and said the test was a false positive. The recall still existed, the FDA insisted, despite an enigmatic statement from the supplier. And remember, there was a weird $1 million donation to Trump and Republicans during that time. Today, FDA apologized to us. A statement on the Taylor Farms website read, despite no public information about an apology, the farm added that at this moment, FDA has not identified a single positive product test result for Cyclospora. A day after that, Taylor Farms clarified that the recall was still in effect and that they were no longer sourcing iceberg lettuce from central Mexico for this growing season. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys are saying it wrong.
For years, you watch companies move production from America down to Mexico.
Federal health officials have spent weeks on oscillating responses to the Cyclospora outbreak, which has sickened thousands and can cause severe gastrointestinal illness, while officials and experts have questioned both the administration's handling of the investigation and Taylor Farms' response. So just, it seems like we're having issues again with corporations delving their hands into the government. Yeah, Mexico. Let's see, Jimbo, I'm waiting. Jimbo, those, what you got, Jimbo? They were overturned, sweetie, and then you pivoted to immigrants. Okay, good to know. Good to know they were not overturned. I can see it from Texas. I can see it from my backyard. All right. Here's my trigger warning. We're going to get into the Fauci stuff. I've had stuff on them already attacking Fauci from like a couple months ago that we haven't gotten into. And then it just happened to be that it all starts culminating with shit hitting the fan today. So we're going to work on that. W's to Dark Eagle for the $5. Thank you so much, Dark Eagle, for the $5. He said, for the goal, thank you for covering these topics. I try. And if you have advice or things on topics that maybe I haven't covered or you haven't heard about that you want to hear about, please reach out to me. Again, you have Discord exists. There's a little bit of verification to get into my Discord, but then you can say in the general chat or whatever things that you would like to see covered, and maybe I can add it in here. Again, a lot of the times my outline is pretty big and I just don't get to stuff fast, unfortunately. So like even this was June 22nd. This is Comer on with Maria Bartiromo. It's talking about Fauci.
This is more evidence of what we
Tasty Cake, there's no proof of that.
already knew. Dr. Fauci lied. He caused a great deal of pain for every American and most people around the world. The decisions that were made by the leadership at the time in America were based solely on what Dr. Fauci was saying, and now we know what we've always suspected, that he completely lied. He lied about funding gain-of-function research. He lied about the origins of COVID. He just continued to lie throughout the entire COVID debacle. The decisions were made about the vaccines. If we had known at the time that this didn't come from a wet market, this was man-made, would that have had an impact on the type of vaccine that Americans were given that we now know probably has caused a lot of health problems as a result of the COVID?
I want you to hear his words. Listen to James Comer's words very carefully again, the words that he's using.
About the origins of COVID. He just continued to lie throughout the entire COVID debacle.
He didn't lie. He determined that we do not know exactly where it came from, but that most likely it could have come from this place. That's not a lie. Science changes as it goes. What MAGA and Republicans don't seem to understand is that there was a time where we thought the earth was flat. Some of you still think the earth is flat. And there was a time where we thought that everything orbited around earth. Some of you might still think that. And then the science changed. So they didn't lie. at the time. It was the information with which they had at the time. So at the time, the information that he had on the origins were what they were. And again, we still don't have sufficient proof, Tasty Cake, of where it came from. We do not have sufficient proof of where it came from. If you do, please cite it and I will bring it up. But listen to James Comer's words here.
The decisions were made about the vaccines. If we had known at the time that this didn't come from a wet market, this was man-made, would that have had an impact on the type of vaccine that Americans were given that we now
Oh, the one you don't like?
know probably has caused a lot of...
The one we know probably. Do you hear that? He doesn't know.
Probably has caused a lot of health problems.
He doesn't know. Probably. Maybe. We talk about it in my circles, but I don't have proof of it.
As a result of the COVID vaccine. So we already did the investigation, and we already have criminal referrals sitting on the desk at the Department of Justice. The Senate did the same. The Senate Homeland Security also has criminal referrals dating back a year.
Also that, Blue, if we had an intact pandemic response team, maybe it would have been better. Just a thought.
And a half on Dr. Fauci. We also, my committee, the Oversight Committee, did an investigation of the pardon that Joe Biden gave, all the pardons. And we concluded that Joe Biden wasn't at the table. There were no meetings with Joe Biden. The Constitution's clear. The president has sole authority to grant pardons, but there's no evidence that at the time that President Biden was even involved in the pardon process. They were
That's not true. You can't prove that.
Signed by the AutoPen, but there's...
Prove that. Prove it was signed by AutoPen. And what is the goddamn AutoPen, since you guys don't seem to understand it? Do you think Trump individually signed 1,600 pardons sitting there by himself? Do you think that's what happened?
There's no evidence, and that was based on all the depositions we had with all the key people in the White House during the Biden administration. There's no evidence Joe Biden participated in the decision-making of the pardon process. So there's more than...
That's all bullshit. That has nothing to do with Fauci. Okay. But again... Like somebody put in the chat, I thought it was fake. Now they're blaming him. Exactly, right? January 6th was also fake, but he pardoned them. Make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense. So here is Rand Paul was on with Joe Kernan again, and uses the words orchestrated, which is an insane thing to say.
Pardon, and he's got pardon going forward, pardon going backwards. I don't know whether those stand up, but 2 years ago, David Sachs, I'm sure you know him, he said this explains exactly how he orchestrated the pandemic, or at least knew about gain-of-function research, and then changed the story. And I tweeted at the time, can someone explain to me why Dems line up to defend this guy? Can you explain why Democrats have lined up to defend Fauci when it was clear as the nose on your face what had happened?
It wasn't, because you don't have the evidence to know what happened.
I think he represents Big Brother in public health. The Big Brother that tells you what to do, doesn't give you advice, but commands you and tells you what to do. And the left.
That's not what happened either. The rewriting that we are doing of what happened during COVID is insane to me. Insane.
Really is fine with an authoritarian approach to medicine.
Pardon, and
it's insane. That's not what happened. Give me a press conference where it wasn't just advice. That's wild. Anyway, so this, I'm going to play this. This was the news that came out yesterday before we get into the hearing today.
Newly released diary entries by Dr. Anthony Fauci are shedding light on his soaring notoriety.
What was he pardoned for, Tasty Cake?
During the COVID epidemic. The documents released by Republican Senator Rand Paul include Fauci's reflections about being invited to A-list parties, calls with Barbra Streisand, but also some uncertainty about the origin of COVID, whether it started in a wet market in China or leaked from a Wuhan lab.
Okay, so we didn't know. Black Wolf, what am I lying about? Yeah, that's a good question. Exactly. It was preemptive, so there's not an actual crime there that you can show me he was pardoned for. Cool. I'm just going to kind of read the headline and maybe the first paragraph of this real quick because I really want to get into what we are here to get into today. Fauci diary entries, press is going wild with me. Former chief White House medical advisor Anthony Fauci was keenly aware of the media's interest in him early on in the COVID-19 pandemic and considered some of the attention flattering, according to diary entries released by Senator Rand Paul. Over the weekend, Paul published more than 1,000 pages of Fauci's diary entries as well as an article about Fauci that the doctor had saved. In one entry, he discussed how he sought to use his media appearances to communicate what was known about the coronavirus at the time. Quote, press is going wild with me. Front page in Washington Post yesterday, an op-ed by Maureen Dowd in New York Times today about me and my relationship with the POTUS. Profile by Peter Nicholas on me in The Atlantic. I'm trying in several articles and on TV to clarify that the POTUS is talking about hope for therapies, although there are no good data, while I must stick to the science. And so fundamentally, we are approaching this from different but not conflicting standpoints, Fauci wrote on March 22nd, 2020. By a May 21st, 2020 diary entry, Fauci had become very aware of his heightened profile and had considered some of the attention flattering. Big front page article about me appeared in the Washington Post, very flattering. The situation with my national and international fame is explosive and really unimaginable. It is not hyperbole to say that today I am the most famous and talked about person in the country and one of the most recognizable, I'm guessing he just misspelled, person in the world, wrote Fauci. So, again, I will have this article in my live outline for you. No problem with that. You can read through it, read through the things that they have. Let me get to this post. So, Rand Paul has been posting tweets, okay, this entire time. So here's a piece of the diary that he did. Fauci writes in his diary, now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier. That is January of 2020. The wet market was already off the table in his own private notes. So again, 2020, it wasn't like we were barely dealing with it. The science was going to change. It doesn't mean it was a lie. It was the information he had at the time, correct? So him saying this, now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier, and then he did not read the other part. So right here, if you can follow my mouse, can you guys see my mouse? It's going to be the second paragraph, second to last sentence. Now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier. This is what Rand Paul left out. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to humans. He gave the information that he had at the time. Stop it with the bullshit. Be genuine, be good faith about the things that you're reporting, the things that you're reading, the things that you're saying. Okay? What did I want to see if I can get this? Make sure it stays up and loads. Boop, 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 boop. CDC's chief blocked a COVID vaccine study. Now it's in a top medical journal. This was June 23rd of 2026. A COVID vaccine study that the CDC halted this spring over methodological concerns was published Tuesday in JAMA Network Open, a leading peer-reviewed medical journal. The analysis used the same methodology that CDC's interim director had criticized when the paper was not allowed to be published in the weekly scientific report of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The study, which had been slated for publication in March in the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, found that the COVID-19 vaccine reduced the risk of emergency department visits and hospitalizations among healthy adults by about half last winter. I'm sorry, let me read that again. The COVID-19 vaccine reduced the risk of emergency department visits and hospitalizations among healthy adults by about half last winter. The findings were consistent with what researchers have found in past years, that the vaccine can help reduce the risk of severe illness in adults even after accounting for immunity from prior vaccination or infection. Science was never the issue, said Michelle Barron, one of the study's authors and senior medical director of infection prevention and control for UC Health, a nonprofit health system in Colorado. That's my hospital. Certainly, it was within the CDC's purview to keep it out for whatever reason, but it was clearly not for scientific reasons that the study was withheld from publication in the MMWR. Jay Bhattacharya, CDC's interim director, delayed publication of the study before it was subsequently not published in the MMWR at all. The Washington Post previously reported. Bhattacharya had concerns about the methods used to calculate vaccine effectiveness, a Health and Human Services spokesman said at the time. Barron said she believed the study was not published because the findings did not support Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s agenda that wants to limit the use of COVID vaccines specifically. Kennedy, the founder of a prominent anti-vaccine group, has been an outspoken critic of COVID shots, once referring to them as the, quote, deadliest vaccine ever made without any evidence. A spokeswoman for the Health and Human Services Department did not directly address the author's allegation Tuesday that the paper was withheld because it conflicted with the administration's vaccine agenda. Spokeswoman Emily Hillard said the CDC evaluates studies using rigorous scientific methods and reviews methodological concerns before publication. Let's see. A commentary accompanying Tuesday's JAMA Network Open report said the methodology in question, known as test negative design, has limitations like any study, but those shortcomings are well understood, actively studied, and outweighed by the method's practicality for routine vaccine effectiveness monitoring, wrote Natalie Dean, Associate Professor of Biostatistics and Epidemiology at Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health. Again, more that you can read, but they specifically tried to block this study because it goes against what they said. Now, we have another one. This one came out in June of 2023. This was specifically from Mehdi Hasan. We're back to Mehdi Hasan. Those insisting the pandemic was human-made are ignoring the known facts. Mehdi Hasan was on a tirade yesterday. If you would like to scroll through his Twitter, have fun with that. Have fun with that. It was really, really fun yesterday. Guys, as we're sitting here, I'm going to do a real quick mod announcement. Guys, hi, I'm Monica, just Monida. Welcome in if you are watching for the first time. I appreciate you being here. If you're watching over here on TikTok, if you can continue to tap that screen for me. I know that my gifting is suspended. TikTok has been like that now that we show clips. That is their way to get at me. So unfortunately, that happens. But just keep tapping that screen for me. I would appreciate it. We're trying to hit that 200,000 like mark before we hit 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And then I have 1 more hour. So I'm here for an hour and 15 minutes more. I will probably go over a little bit so I can ensure to finish this section today. But I appreciate you guys being here. Over on YouTube, if you are over there and you have not hit that thumbs up button, will you please do so? It helps us on the algorithm. It helps push us out. It helps the videos get seen later as well for a rewatch. I appreciate you. And hello over there on Twitch if you are watching. I see Jazzagal followed me. Thank you so much for the follow over there on Twitch. Guys, I have 115 left in my goal. If we could work on that, I would appreciate it. This is my job. It's what I do for a living. This is my labor that gets poured into this. I take the brunt of the bullshit when they come at me, and especially as a woman, we know how disgusting that is. So let's make sure we are dollar trained, $2 training to get that down. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all in the link tree in my bio. It's the same name, just Monida on all platforms, but if you need a direct link, the link tree in my bio will get you there. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. As we're sitting here, thank you, Cormo, for the 2853 for Cormo on TikTok. Now I have to do math. If you're just watching me for the first time, welcome in. I don't do math. I'm not great at it. I should have known. I should have known, Cormo. I should have known. W's to Cormo for getting us to our favorite number here in this chat, which is 8647. Come at me, Todd Blanche. All right. I worked in food. We know what it means. Stop crying. Audrey, thank you. All right, continuing on. Mehdi Hasan. Today, Americans are more likely to believe that the novel coronavirus which causes COVID came from a lab rather than from an animal infecting a human, even though most studies overwhelmingly suggest the opposite. For months, proponents of the idea that the novel coronavirus escaped from a lab have been hotly anticipating a declassified U.S. intelligence report on the origin of the pandemic. Now the report is out, and it was kind of a dud for the lab leak theory. The report found no indication that Chinese labs were working with any close progenitors of SARS-CoV-2 or of any specific research-related incident occurring inside a lab that could have caused the pandemic, and yet lab leak advocates are claiming vindication anyway. How? They point to 2 recent news reports that they say back their claim that COVID came from a lab rather than from an animal infecting a human in a marketplace. The Wall Street Journal reported in February that the Department of Energy changed its intelligent assessment to include that the novel coronavirus most likely arose from a laboratory leak. This month, several outlets reported that unnamed intelligence sources claim that a U.S.-funded scientist researching coronaviruses was among 3 people working at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, who in November 2019 became sick with an unspecified illness. But these stories are not the smoking guns lab leak proponents make them out to be. Let's start with how the scientific evidence of the origin of the novel coronavirus evolved. In March 2020, The Lancet published an open letter from more than 24 eminent scientists, experts on viruses and epidemiology, that condemned conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin. That said, one did not have to be a conspiracy theorist to wonder if the virus may have accidentally escaped from a lab. Some leading virologists did wonder about it. In a January 2020 email to Dr. Anthony Fauci about the virus, Kristen Anderson, a virologist from Scripps, said, quote, some of the features potentially look engineered, and that he and his colleagues all find the genome inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. Then, in May of 2021, a group of more than a dozen scientists, including evolutionary biologist Michael Worobey, published a peer-reviewed letter in Science calling for more investigations into COVID-19's origin and maintaining that both a natural origin and an accidental lab leak remained viable theories. So again, we don't know. I don't know that we'll ever know. I don't know that we'll ever know for sure, to be honest. I really don't know that we'll know. But here's where it gets interesting. The same scientists who initially found a lab leak scenario plausible, Kristen Anderson and Michael Rorobe, reached the opposite conclusion after they studied the virus. Last summer, Rorobe and Anderson co-authored 2 major peer-reviewed studies looking at the earliest cases of COVID-infected patients in Wuhan, concluding that, quote, the emergence of SARS-CoV-2 occurred through the live wildlife trade in China, and that the wet market that hosted that wildlife trade, quote, was the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. Virologist. I know I keep messing it up. I want to roll my R in there somewhere. I think that's just piss him off again, Audie. There's been nothing equivalent to those findings in the published literature on the lab leak theory side of the debate. There just hasn't. As Rorobe told the Associated Press for a story published in February, the scientific literature contains essentially nothing but original research articles that support a natural origin of this virus pandemic. On the other hand, the lab leak theory is built not on hard evidence, but on circumstantial stuff. It's a theory based wholly on questions, not actual findings. For example, lab leakers ask if COVID was natural in origin. Why haven't scientists yet discovered the exact annual? It's going to be that kind of day because I'm talking about stuff that my mouth doesn't usually say. Yet discovered the exact animal from which the virus crossed into humans. Forgive me, but so what that they haven't? As a January article in Slate pointed out, it took 29 years to definitively identify the source of Ebola, 26 years for HIV/AIDS, and 15 years for SARS. So the lack of an identifiable source, especially this soon, does not suggest a lab leak. Meanwhile, scientists continue to pile up evidence that points strongly to an animal source. In March, Anderson and Rorobe, along with more than a dozen other scientists, analyzed the genetic data from samples taken at the wet market in the early days of the outbreak, and in one significant COVID-positive sample, found fragments of raccoon dog DNA, exactly the kind of evidence you'd expect to find in animals if animals were the origin of the pandemic. In fact, the history of pandemics is a history of viruses crossing over from animals to humans, not escaping labs and infecting humans. That's not to say accidents don't happen at labs. They happen plenty. They just haven't yet, that we know of, resulted in wider outbreaks. That leads to another question. Did scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology run the sort of gain-of-function experiments that could have created something like the novel coronavirus? Now, that is a good question. WIV did apply for a grant to run such experiments in 2018, but was denied. Given China's lack of transparency, which is a big reason we're still arguing about the origin of COVID, it's possible that WIV conducted such experiments in secret. There's no way to know. That's why a June 20th Wall Street Journal report based on unnamed intelligence sources that one of the 3 WIV scientists who fell ill in November 2019 was researching coronaviruses appears to carry such significance. Never mind that the declassified intelligence report found no evidence indicating that WIV genetic engineering work has involved a backbone virus that is closely related enough to have been the source of the pandemic. And never mind that the report found these scientists experienced a range of symptoms consistent with colds or allergies, with accompanying symptoms typically not associated with COVID-19, and some of them were confirmed to have been sick with other illnesses unrelated to COVID-19. So again, he really goes into that and he hyperlinks like all of this, which is great. This was Mehdi Hasan. I will again have that up in my live outline as we get there. Okay. All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Starting out, Rand Paul issued a tweet yesterday that I just want to read. It was a quote to something in regards to what RFK said, but I really just want to focus on what he said. This is Rand Paul. If Anthony Fauci comes before my committee tomorrow and perjures himself, his preemptive pardon from Joe Biden will not protect him. I want you guys to remember this. If Anthony Fauci comes before my committee tomorrow and perjures himself, his preemptive pardon from Joe Biden will not protect him. So we're already putting out threats. And the reason I say that is because the clips I'm going to show are going to be almost pointless to you besides attacks and conversations. Because here's our Fifth Amendment. Let's talk about it. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. The portion we are focusing on here, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Granted, he does not have a criminal case currently, but as per SCOTUS ruling, it is just the ability to not perjure yourself. So, let's get into some of this. Before we do, let me check messages here. I got that one. Thank you so much to Kelly for the $5. You said, first time watcher here. You were recommended in RTP's Discord, and I think you're great. What time do you start each morning? Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate you. Welcome in to the newbie watchers. If you guys are coming from RTP's Discord, guys, I'm in there all the time, and I love you all so much. And I reference RTP in this place quite a bit. I go live at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, so I do usually start before RTP. And I understand I get some of the lovely viewers in here. I get like Ack and people like that who will watch me until RTP goes on. Totally fine. Totally understandable. You guys know what I do as soon as I get off? I go and I watch RTP. I watch the end of it and I immediately restart it so I can catch up. So we do that every single day. So W's to Kelly. Thank you guys and welcome in if you are RTP watchers. Welcome in here on my show. I appreciate you being here. Also, Kayla, thank you for the $2 train. Choo-choo. Hydration break. After all this labor, thank you for reading news to us every day. Love you. I love you so much as well, Kayla. That is 5 + 2 is 7. I have to do math. Leave me alone. I know what that is. I can do that in my head. I can. Because that would be 80, but it's not 80 because it would be 59. Or it would be 79. Leave me alone. Leave me alone with my math. We all know I'm not good at it. It's the one thing you get here. I'm not good at math. All right, so I want to go into a conversation real quick about preemptive pardons and and the pardon power in the Fifth Amendment in general, because we're going to get into that here a little bit. So this is the Criminal Law Library blog. Actually, hydration break. Kayla said, take a drink. Yeah, you're right. Kayla, I didn't. You're right. Okay. I was like, you don't need to hear my slurping, excuse me. A preemptive pardon, which is what Anthony Fauci has, is an act of clemency issued by a head of state or government before charges are formally brought against an individual. Though relatively rare, this type of pardon can generate intense public and legal debate. To understand the complexities, they go into it, legal basis. The legal authority is going to be under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, grants the president the quote, power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. This broad language has been interpreted to allow pardons at any stage of the judicial process, including before charges are formally brought. For example, a Supreme Court decision, Ex parte Garland in 1866, quote, the power of pardon conferred by the Constitution upon the president is unlimited, except in cases of impeachment. It extends to every offense known to the law and may be exercised at any time after its commission, either before legal proceedings are taken or during their pendency or after conviction and judgment. As we've talked about, the pardon power, I personally, as an opinion-based stance, don't agree with it. I think it's too broad. I think there should be a congressional committee behind that decision. But here we are. It is broad authority to be given at any time. It gives you historical examples. You have Gerald Ford and Richard Nixon, right? He issued him a pardon before there were any kind of charges brought against him. George H.W. Bush in the Iran-Contra affair. Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War in regards to Confederate sympathizers. Jimmy Carter and Vietnam draft dodgers. These were all preemptive pardons. It talks about making the case for preemptive pardons and the case against them, about undermining accountability. But again, it wouldn't really matter because the pardon power is so broad and vast that unless they issue a constitutional amendment to change it, that's kind of what we're stuck with. And then I have this one from the Constitutional Center. Thank you, Kayla, for this one. Talking about, do presidential pardons remove the Fifth Amendment rights of recipients? I promise that this is relevant to what we are going to talk about in way of some of these clips from the hearing today, because they are trying to make the claim that the Fifth Amendment is not applicable here in regards to Anthony Fauci taking it. Anthony Fauci answers no questions. I'm just going to warn you now. Anthony Fauci answers 0 questions in this hearing, per the advice of his lawyer and his right under the Fifth Amendment. Now, they are claiming that he does not have that right under the Fifth Amendment because of his pardon. It gets iffy because it's preemptive. And I think that's where the issue is. So here, on January 20th, 2025, Biden issued a series of pardons to the January 6th investigating committee, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Liz Cheney, and others who have been criticized by supporters of President Trump. Questions quickly arose about the impact of the pardons on the ability of recipients to refuse to testify, answer questions, or provide documents before a congressional investigating committee. The same question came up in 2017 when then President Trump was considering pardons for some former associates. So, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution guarantees that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This constitutional protection can be used in a variety of circumstances when an individual is under investigation by authorities or asked to testify. So this was a Supreme Court in 1955. Although the Fifth Amendment's protection expressly refers to criminal cases, the court has nevertheless found the privilege against self-incrimination to be available to a witness appearing before a congressional committee. Once properly invoked, the privilege protects a witness from being compelled to provide Congress with statements that may directly or indirectly furnish evidence which could be used against the witness in subsequent criminal prosecution, or from being punished for their refusal to respond to committee inquiries. Now, what they are saying is that it doesn't apply. So let's go to Brown v. Walker. In his majority opinion, Justice Henry Billings Brown found that, quote, if a witness has already received a pardon, he can no longer set up his Fifth Amendment privilege, since he stands with respect to such offense as if it had never been committed. And then Burdick v. United States added another dimension to the question. He asserted his Fifth Amendment right in front of a grand jury, which was investigating a leak of information from the Treasury Department to the newspaper. President Woodrow Wilson granted a full pardon to Burdick. Burdick refused to accept Wilson's pardon and then used his Fifth Amendment right. He was held in contempt of court. So, from the little bit of research I did this morning with my community, thank you guys all for the fever dream that was that as we brainstormed together. What we're finding is there's going to be a nuance and a gray area in the fact that the pardon is preemptive. It is not talking about a specific crime, right? Fauci was not pardoned for a crime. He was pardoned preemptively. So does that negate his Fifth Amendment right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. Does it give Congress the ability to hold him in contempt? Maybe. We'll see. We will find out. If they hold him in contempt and then they later choose, or he later fights that in court, we will see. But there's also the thing of state charges or any future charges. And so we are going to get into that. First, there's a man here.
What I was hearing on NPR is because they threatened him with perjury, then his Fifth Amendment would apply, because then you're the one that brought another crime into it. So
yeah, that's fair. Makes sense.
Yeah, if you're saying that his pardon does not apply to perjuring himself, then
you're threatening him with another crime he wasn't pardoned with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So let's get into that. Enough talking in chat. Why was he still there? So let's get into that here. That one I'm just saving in case I need it for later. Oh, you guys don't need to see that. You don't need to see that. So here is Rand Paul at part of the opening of his speech. I don't have the entire thing. I don't need to watch the entire thing, but here is his threat to him of perjury.
Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. The chairman has denied your assertion of privilege and directed you to answer, but you nonetheless refuse and stand on privilege despite the existence of the pardon. The committee will have to consider after this hearing what appropriate action should be taken against you for the failure to testify after being directed to do so. It's against the law to obstruct an investigation of Congress. There will be repercussions to your refusal to testify today. Senator Peters. Fifth Amendment.
So you're threatening him. You are threatening him. I see that. If your guys are having issues with Glitch Talk, maybe try and exit out and come back. If not, remember, I am on Twitch and YouTube. It's against the law to interfere with these proceedings. Well, the issue is that if he doesn't have his Fifth Amendment right for his preemptive pardon, how much is he being pardoned for? You don't get to just decide when and where. Oh, Trump has as well, Jay. When he has it and when he doesn't. I don't see how they think that that's going to hold up for them. I really, really don't. So then Josh Hawley from Missouri does the same thing. There were not a lot of Democrats at this hearing. There were mostly Republicans at this hearing. Democrats figured they had more things to do, since we're striking Iraq and everything. But here we go.
Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know.
Pardoned for what? Can you make that case to me? Because then he puts himself in a situation where he could be perjured further. Where if he perjures himself, you can go after him. Or state crimes in Missouri. If you choose to charge him with state crimes, you could go after him. It makes complete sense that he would invoke the Fifth. Absolutely makes sense. So to sit here and say that it doesn't apply is silly.
As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896.
Which we just talked about. But that was a pardon for a specific crime, correct?
When he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people.
So again, more threats. I would invoke the Fifth too. You are continuing to fucking threaten him. By the way, that'll be the perfect moment to bring it in, I think. So we're gonna play that now, just as a reminder. I know it's not the same because he wasn't pardoned during this time, but just a reminder for everybody.
So, Ms. Trump, I take it you are not going to answer any questions about your preparation today with your counsel. Is that correct?
Then, should I say this, or should I respond to that?
Just read that.
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein, in its entirety, I decline to answer the question. Same answer, 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 same answer. Anyone in my position not taking the Fifth Amendment would be a fool, an absolute fool.
Okay.
One statement or answer that is ever so slightly off, just ever so slightly, by accident, by mistake.
Jose, you said they're going to take his immunity away because he's not talking. They can't. They have no power to remove his pardon. None. That's how powerful it is. Do you want to get on my side now and go for a constitutional amendment to take that away and make it some sort of committee? Maybe we should do that.
Such as it was a sunny and beautiful day when actually it was slightly overcast, would be met by law enforcement at a level seldom seen.
So then it goes into his personal stuff. But again, just the point is that he said it over 400 times, invoking the Fifth. Jose, what's Fauci going to get indicted for? For what? What crime? What crime is he going to get indicted for? Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you, Jumar, for the $2 train. You said for my birthday. It's your birthday, Jumar? Happy birthday. Everybody wish Jumar a happy birthday, please. It's Jumar. Jumar, happy birthday. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for sending me a $2 train on your birthday. Don't know how that works, but I appreciate you for it anyway. Also, I have to say thank you. Let me find it. There it is. Huge thank yous to Luca. Thank you for the $19.99 super chat. You said, what day of the week is it today? Is something I've asked every grinder date I've ever had the next morning. That's fair. It's a Coyote Ugly situation, Luca. Are you turning over and, oh, who is that? What day is it? Where am I? Is that what's happening? So Fauci also made an opening statement, as they are allowed to do. I'm guessing his lawyers approved this, so we are going to play what his statement specifically about the fact that Rand Paul has been up this man's ass since the beginning without any kind of proof of anything.
Served at the NIH for over 54 years, 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Over that period, I proved that I believe in and respect the value of legitimate congressional oversight In fact, I testified before and or briefed Senate and House Senate and House committees well over 200 times over those 38 years. During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews, answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
We will now,
as he's allowed to do, it seems. It'll be interesting to see what they try to do, or if they're just fear-mongering. Is this the whole thing? No, this is just part of it again. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure. Okay. Another part of Rand Paul's opening statement. Just hear the, I just want you to hear the fucking ire that he has for Fauci. Again, without any proof. I don't know why he's so fucking mad. Because he doesn't have proof of anything that he did wrong.
you read it. The committee asked for your voluntary cooperation to come today. Your appearance had to be compelled by subpoena. You're here today under duress. You're here today because of the court ordering it. President Biden issued you a sweeping pardon extending back to 2014, the same pardon he gave to his son Hunter. A pardon may protect a person from criminal prosecution, doesn't rewrite history. It does not erase documents. It does not convert a misleading statement into a truthful one. And it does not prevent Congress from establishing what happened. There will be another pandemic.
It doesn't make a misleading statement a truthful one. The problem I think we have is that and it sucks because Rand Paul is not stupid. Rand Paul is not dumb. But he's going to play dumb, I guess, because he feels so passionately about this. And he feeds into your guys' delusions and your lack of education and your lack of intelligence. Please prove different to me, okay? In understanding what the fuck science is, I think we all fucking forgot what these press conferences looked like, how fucking scary of a time that it was for everybody, and how we were given the information that they had at the time, and then it was updated as we went. That's not a lie. That's not misleading. It was the information they fucking had at the time. So the only way it would be misleading is if he knowingly disseminated information that he knew to be false. I haven't seen evidence of that. What I have seen is that he had a situation where he had two different things of evidence in way of the origin, right? And he was giving out what was the most, had a consensus at the time. I can't speak. I apologize. But which one had a higher consensus at the time. But it wasn't like the other one wasn't spoken about. So this idea that he purposefully misled or purposely lied to the American people is wild to me. You want to talk about rewriting history? Rand Paul is attempting to do that.
There will be another crisis. And there will again be officials who insist that uncertainty must be hidden for the public's own good. They will demand obedience. They will...
Trump also thought so, which is why he did warp speed, so...
invoke science. I am the science, as though it were a commandment. They will argue that government officials cannot be questioned because questioning them would undermine public trust. They have it backwards. It is secrecy that destroys trust. It is arrogance that destroys trust. It is censorship that destroys trust. And it is the refusal to admit error that destroys trust. That loss of trust may be your most damaging legacy. Trust can't be ordered. It has to be earned. Scientist is above scrutiny. No government.
I agree, no scientist is above scrutiny, but the problem is that you guys are making claims without any kind of evidence. That is where I have an issue. Okay, let me put those two in highlight so I know where I am. Thank you, Kayla, for the 80 cents. For the 80 cents, and you said for the said what did you say for the plot here? You said because LOL. So that leaves us with 76.67. I know you just wanted me to say it, Kayla, but it doesn't because W's to Juicy Juice for the $2 train, which gets us to 74.67. Thank you, Kayla. I'm 35 years old. I just want everybody to know that I'm 35. I just want everybody to know. So then let's go to some of these Republicans who are going to be disingenuous because we're not going to have anything from Fauci because Fauci pled the fifth. So what we do have is Ron Johnson claiming that he sabotaged other avenues of care. I just want us to remember, take our minds back to COVID a little bit.
There was a website that was tracking the random controlled studies. Here they are, showing 60, 70% efficacy of ivermectin. The same day you say there's no evidence, there was all kinds of evidence. Loved ones had to go to hospitals, had to sue hospitals. Just, would you try it?
No, because ivermectin is not for humans, it's for fucking horses, you psychopaths. That's why. Maybe use other medicines.
So I would want to know, to what extent were you involved in sabotaging hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and did you do that because you knew?
Did you sabotage? Did you sabotage hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin? Mm-hmm.
So I would want to know, to what extent were you involved in sabotaging hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and did you do that because you knew the only way you get an emergency use authorization for these drugs, these experimental gene therapy, was if there was no effective treatment, you couldn't get the emergency use authorization. So is that why you helped sabotage these cheap generic drugs in favor of remdesivir, which, by the way, nurses, are you aware of the fact that nurses called it run, death is near?
On the advice of...
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen, for the correction. It can be used for humans. Ivermectin can be used for humans, but it treats parasites. C19 is not a parasite. Correct. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. So where is this evidence? I want to see his stack of evidence. They always do this where they bring in stacks of paper. I want to see these studies that they have on ivermectin and its efficacy in regards to COVID-19.
Counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Again, that's what we're going to get from Fauci the entire time. So there is that. And now we go to Peter Navarro in his conversations about having truckloads of hydroxychloroquine ready during the pandemic and that he was denied.
All this stuff with science, Jasmine, I want to emphasize, tells us now works. He was saying didn't work. I had 1 million doses of hydroxychloroquine in warehouses as the defense policy.
I'm sorry, Ron Vara, can you say that again for me, please?
Hydroxychloroquine.
And I know I say words wrong, but I'm just saying.
I had 1 million doses of hydroxychloroquine in warehouses as the
hydroxychloroquine. Like what?
Defense policy coordinator for the DPA that I was trying to distribute to hospitals, and he got the FDA to stop me from doing that. Thousands of people could be here in this country right now alive if I had been able to distribute that. Take that to the bank. That's what the science says.
Okay, what science? Show me the science. Show me the science. 1,000 people could have been here. So that's what he said. Show me the science. We've been doing this for 6 fucking years, 7 fucking years. I'm still waiting. By the way, just want to show this to everybody. This was January 19th of 2021. President Trump awards presidential commendations to Operation Warp Speed Team. This is the one thing, like really, one of the only things in Trump's first term that I can give him any kind of commendation on, that I can say that I was happy he did, was this. This is like the one thing, I have said it before, that I'll be like, okay, Donald Trump, good job. I'm glad you did that. And it's the one thing you guys fucking hate. Like, what world are we living in? It's literally the one thing that you guys are like, no. You know he's vaccinated? Did you know that? Do you guys know that? Do you guys know he gets his boosters? Do you guys know that? But again, today, President Donald J. Trump awarded presidential commendations to the below individuals in recognition of their exceptional efforts on Operation Warp Speed. Uh-oh. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? It's just a fucking joke. It is political theater. It's a fucking joke. I'm mad I have to waste my fucking time on it, to be honest. Like, it pisses me off. Speaking of that, here was Trump literally in Georgia, July 22nd, complaining about not getting enough credit for it.
Just in American history. And we did big ones first. You know, we had the best economy in history in my first term. A lot of people don't, because we had a COVID period, went all over the world, and we did a great job where they got no credit for it. We did Operation Warp Speed, and I'll tell you, we did a great job, but we got very little credit for it. We should.
From your own people, not from us. You didn't get credit for Warp Speed because your own people, your base that you helped riled up, undermined your own work. You said, I did Warp Speed. And then you told everybody to be anti-vaxxers. And then you wonder why you didn't get credit for Warp Speed. Interesting. Maybe you should look at that yourself.
We've been given big credit, but we got credit for everything else. We had the best economy, but this economy is ready to...
Then he goes off on a tangent, so I don't really care because we're not talking about economy today. We do that pretty much every other day, so I don't need that. But maybe blame your base for the reason why you don't. W's to the TikTok chatters and tappers for the 200,000 likes. I appreciate you. If we could hit at least 250,000 before I end today, I would appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. So if we could do that, thank you. Let me see if I brought it up right. Thank you. Alphanator for the $19.99 super chat. Thank you so much. He said, FYI, I have more degrees than Ron and Rand Paul combined, and my friend who got his JD from Georgetown says Fauci can be held in contempt of Congress, but can't be indicted outside of that room. Right, that was kind of what it was looking like. If they want to do anything, it looks like it's going to be contempt, but there's really not an enforcement mechanism, it doesn't look like. As we know, Jim Jordan has been defying a subpoena for how many years now? I want to say like three or 4 years that he has been defying a subpoena to speak in front of Congress. So there's really not an enforcement mechanism under Congress to be able to do anything after they hold him in contempt. So if they choose to hold him in contempt. But it actually went quicker than I thought. I'm proud of myself. Okay, because there really wasn't a lot. This Fauci stuff, I said it yesterday when I said I was going to cover it. This Fauci stuff was kind of a nothing burger. It just was. And the only I know what I did want to show. Sorry. Let me find this. Nope, I still have it up. I don't need that. Because I still have it up. Let me find it. Because I liked what Blumenthal said. So the Democrats that were there, what they did is they used their time to speak just in general about the ridiculousness of being here. So I wanted to play Blumenthal's portion for you before we move on.
Constitution.
I yield back.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to the dark days of the coronavirus pandemic, one of the darkest days or times in our history. Hospitals were overflowing. Navy medical ships were docked in the Hudson River. Emergency rooms were forced into unprecedented triaging during the worst week of the pandemic, which happens to have been the last week of President Trump's first term. More than 25,000 Americans died of COVID-19. Easy to forget those dark days. But for the past 18 months, the Trump administration has been engaged in a campaign to rewrite this history. And today's proceeding, I fear, is part of that effort, one of the darkest days in our Senate's history. The Trump administration has launched a baseless set of smears against vaccines that help pull us out of that public health crisis, vaccines that are undoubtedly President Trump's greatest accomplishment. It has slashed funding to local public health departments that were on the front lines of the pandemic. And those healthcare workers are heroes. It has disparaged those heroes as woke or wasteful. And it has used a politicized Department of Justice to target the researchers who helped us track and understand the novel virus. Today's hearing is another page in that playbook, sadly, tragically. Dr. Fauci, you've spent 5 decades in public service, including nearly 4 decades in leadership at the National Institutes of Health, helping to conquer COVID-19, but also HIV, swine flu, Zika, Ebola, and other epidemics with real-life results saving human lives. Put aside all the flowery rhetoric that we hear in the United States Senate. Dr. Fauci has saved lives, as have public health officials in the United States and throughout the world. And today, we are demeaning and degrading their life-saving service. Republicans are eager to rebrand you as a villain in order to distract from their own failure to protect Americans from soaring healthcare costs. They've been rising astronomically in the last couple of years.
And again, like I said, political theater to avoid what they're doing. Rising healthcare costs, not only because of the subsidies that they got rid of under the ACA, but as I showed you guys this morning, Donald Trump is going after what he said he'd never touch, which is Medicare, specifically Medicare Part D. They plan to end the subsidies for prescription drugs under Medicare Part D. So those are going to skyrocket as well. This is all political theater for them to avoid the fact that they are failing, and they are failing spectacularly. We are in a war that we can't fucking get out of. Prices are high. Gas is high. Why is he pleading the fifth, still kicking? Because they're a bunch of fucking vindictive little assholes. That's why. Duh. So what they are trying to do, which I said yesterday when I said I was going to cover this, is they are trying to recreate old scores. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to enrage the base once again to COVID, to Biden, Fauci. They're trying to enrage them with buzzwords in the hopes that it will help save them in the midterms. It will not. It won't, because you're not addressing what the real issue is. Yeah, it's so lazy. You can't even get good talking points. You can't. Which, by the way, I'm asking you guys to stay on subject while we are here, but right side of history, you said what a second person has brought up, so I don't know what weird Reddit thread or YouTube streamer you are watching who's repeating this to you that you are now repeating. But you said if the DNC is having to leverage its building for funds, that shows nobody is that party while the right has money. Yeah, the DNC is broke. They're fucking broke. They have a loan that they have to repay, which is probably why they're leveraging the building, because they don't have the funds for that loan. Ken Martin, who is in charge of the DNC, is a piece of shit who is running from his responsibility and needs to step down. What more do you want from me? Thank you for calling the stream. Can I get your age, state, and who you voted for?
Hey, what up, baby? This is Randy, New York, 33.
Who'd you vote for, Randy?
Trump, but unfortunately, unfortunately, I voted for Trump, but fortunately, I have now seen the light. A family member of mine was in the hospital. I saw how bad everything is as far
Randy,
as
you know that you're
internally in the
perma-banned, right? So why'd you create another number?
This is the same number I've been calling.
No, because I blocked it. I sure as fuck blocked it. For the reasons that we stated, which is you calling me baby and violating my consent. Right, Randy? Okay, that's what I thought. Sorry guys, I get confused when I'm not thinking about the same person. We have, who is it? Randy and Tim, right? I'm gonna write that in my sheets so I remember. Like, I remember, because I don't want to talk to him. But, you know, you don't remember at the same time. All right, I'll let Blumenthal continue.
And from unsafe food, which has caused cyclospora to spread, and resurgent measles as a result of the anti-vaccine policy. This hearing is the culmination of a years-long crusade, which started more than 6 years ago when Dr. Fauci dared to contradict President Trump. The campaign to vilify you, Dr. Fauci, is just one part of this larger campaign against science and facts, a campaign that has made Americans less safe. It is shameful that in a country like ours, a dedicated public service like Dr. Fauci has experienced persistent threats to his life since the pandemic because of the lies that are told about him. His attorney has been gagged, thrown out of this hearing room.
I don't have that clip because I just don't find it relevant. The attorney was saying things on behalf of his client, Fauci, which they're allowed to do. I'm pretty sure when you invoke the fifth, your lawyer is allowed to speak for you. Rand Paul had a giant hissy fit about and threw his lawyer out. So.
But he has written a letter to the chairman that is an explanation for the reasons why Dr. Fauci is, in fact, invoking his constitutional right. It is a right. And I would ask that this letter from David Schertler and Danny Onato be made a part of the record if there's
Without
no
objection.
His attorney has also issued a statement within the last half hour, I believe, that sets forth, again, the reasons that.
Still kicking. What was he pardoned for? How does he know if his pardon covers what they're asking him about since it was a preemptive pardon? Still kicking. How do you know? It was a preemptive pardon. It was not given any specificity of a crime. So how does he know if he's actually pardoned for that or not? To be able to use his Fifth Amendment.
He is here to help protect his client's rights. And I would ask that that statement be made part of the record as well, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
Let's be very clear. The Fifth Amendment is a right of everyone appearing before an authority like this one. It should be respected. And the reason that Dr. Fauci has invoked it, in the words of his attorney, quote,
Sorry, he talks so slow. I apologize.
during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Fauci appeared at least a dozen times for congressional hearings in the Senate alone in answer to questions about the very issues on which you purport to seek information. He has been thoroughly transparent and consistent in providing factual information to Congress, and he is deeply familiar with the processes and protocols of sharing information with the legislative branch. And then referring to the chairman, this years-long public crusade against Dr. Fauci makes one thing clear. This is not a serious effort to seek information from Dr. Fauci in a transcribed interview for a valid legislative purpose. You are single-mindedly fixated on Dr. Fauci, seeing Dr. Fauci prosecuted for imaginary crimes, and you are so invested in that outcome that you have created a personal brand around it. Those are the words of his attorney, and he cites as well the statements of the chairman, which indicate a clear intent that the result of this proceeding be a prosecution. Quote, the power of some of us must be used for good, like putting Fauci in jail. That's from December 23, 2025. I want to give him.
It's just more evidence that it's been vindictive this whole time. And by the way, this hearing ended with Rand Paul saying that he wants to meet next week on a vote for contempt for Fauci. So you're going to tell me this isn't vindictive? It absolutely is. He keeps going, but he speaks for a long time. And then I want to see if I can get to where Rand Paul has a hissy fit about
But
that
not
letter.
in a show trial. Not as part of a continuing vendetta against a single individual. And unfortunately, I fear that is what we are seeing today. America deserves better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In no courtroom in America can you have your witness plead the Fifth Amendment and then your attorney gets to testify. That's what that letter is. The attorney's complaining and testifying, saying, he didn't do it, the prosecution's unfair. You don't get to do that. That's one thing you give up when you take the Fifth Amendment. You say, I'm not going to testify. I'm not going to give you any information. You don't then get to put your lawyer forward to justify it. He can do it in the press, but you can't come and testify. He was not invited to testify, and he was out of order, and it was appropriate to have him ejected.
He's such a big baby. But I just want to remind us all about who's in charge now. As we sit here, as MAGA sits here and tries to denigrate Anthony Fauci, who's probably done more for our health than a figure in recent history. I just want to remind you of who's in charge now. So I have a couple clips of that, unfortunately for us. Unfortunately for us.
There's also there's many other confirmation studies. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism.
What? There is a study that says children who are circumcised early have double the rate risk for autism? You guys want to go against Anthony Fauci? Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk shit on Anthony Fauci when this crazy motherfucker is in charge right now?
Confirmation studies. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly likely.
I'm sorry, I even tried to correct it for him because of how insane it was. I said double the rate of contracting, double the risk. I was wrong, double the rate of autism. I didn't know that you could have first-rate autism versus second-rate autism versus third-rate autism. I didn't know that it came like that. I have 2 times the autism. What? Yeah, what is early? What is early circumcision? What are these studies that he's citing? What was the methodology that was used? You have 5th rate because ADHD? Yeah, and then you have like ADHD, right? It'll change it. That's the guy in charge, and you guys want to sit here and like, Anthony Fauci. Triple-tism is wild. I'm just saying. What are we doing here?
Because they're given Tylenol.
Oh, because they're given Tylenol. Because after you circumcise the child, they're given Tylenol. Don't know if that's even fucking true. And that gives you second-rate autism, whatever that means. ADHD.
This is positive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah. But, there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this a long time ago. I met Bob Toulouse. Yeah, go ahead.
I studied this a long time. I don't think Donald Trump has studied anything ever in his life. And then I have one more, just as a reminder. We've talked about it before. We did not talk about it today, but we have talked about it before, how we are seeing a huge increase in measles outbreaks ever since he came into office. But I just want to remind everybody, we played it before, but children were dying from measles. Children were dying from measles, which we had eradicated in the United States. Eradicated. But this was RFK's response to children dying.
Hospital and they're sick. We need to know how to treat them. And one of the failures of the CDC in the past is they weren't telling doctors, no kid should die of measles in this country. Even in 1963, before the introduction of the vaccine, there were 400 deaths a year, and there were up to 2 million measles cases. So it's only very, very sick kids should die from measles, and nobody should.
There's some that were saying that the
What? You're saying we had 400 deaths a year before vaccines? And then we had vaccines and we eradicated it, and now only sick kids should die from measles? No kids should die from measles because we had a fucking vaccine that eradicated it. That's your guy. That's your man. Does cocaine off of toilet seats, picks up dead bears on the highway, puts rotting whale carcasses on the roof of his car. Yeah. Raccoon penises, if I remember correctly. Yeah. W's to Subu34 for the 567. Excuse me 1 second. As always, thank you for hard work and keeping us informed. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And I see what you did. I see what you did there with the number. I appreciate you for that. My husband's back. He keeps bothering me today.
What's even worse is raccoon penises to use as a toothpick because there's a certain bone. To use as a toothpick after you're done doing blow off of a toilet seat.
Trying to get me taken down today? What is wrong with you? Why can I still hear you when I kick you? Why can I still hear you when I kick you? The decimal makes my eye twitch. Me too, Subu. But my community likes to torture me with decimal points. Hi, Eclipsis. Not him haunting you. He's my husband. He does haunt me. That is true. That is what happens. All right. We are going to do a very, very hard pivot. I don't have enough time to get into my immigration portion, so we aren't going to be able to do that. So we're going to do a very, very hard pivot. And we're going to go into what I titled some congressional soap opera. The two things have nothing to do with each other. But he had it coming. Yes, Sparky. They have nothing to do with each other, but I just want to show you what goes on, and again, in way of congressional hearings, in case you don't get enough of that anyway. So this was Tillis and Warren, who go at it about credit card rate caps. So we're just going to get through some things that I hadn't been able to get through since with the time that I have about 20 minutes left. Talking about credit card rate caps. Now remember, I'll bring this up and I'll bring it up forever. Donald Trump issued an EO capping the interest rate on credit cards. Did anybody experience any benefit from that by chance? I'll continue to ask every single time. RTB's not here. Can't use Blue Chew. No, we don't have that here. It's fine. Oh, do you guys want this one? We can do this. I have my own. You want mine?
Yeah! I just got hard.
Oh, hard pivot.
Insight. That erection.
I have that one.
Glizzy. I am whore.
There you go. So, no, it didn't matter. The EO capping credit card interest rates didn't matter because of the fact that it has to be done legislatively. Executive orders do not control private companies. They can't. So unless the private company chose to do that, that's not how that works. So this is Tillis and Warren going at it about credit card rates. Just it gets wild in there.
I've got a minute left. If somebody's got an example of one of these arbitrary rate caps that have worked, I will yield my time and you can explain it to me right now. I got 45 seconds left. I want somebody who has expertise in this field to explain it to me right now.
So,
when did it succeed? I've got a list of failures.
Okay, you wanted to do political theater and say, somebody explain it to me. I'll yield my time. I'll be quiet. And nobody answered at first. And so he says, nobody? I'll yield my time so you can answer. You can hear Elizabeth Warren go, so. And then he interrupts her to continue talking. I wonder why. I wonder why that is.
In this field to explain it to me right now.
So,
when did it succeed? I've got a list of failures. All I've asked was a simple question. Point to the one time in the whole history of the world and credit cards globally where it's worked once.
I got it. And that is when the giant corporations...
No, you didn't answer my question.
No, I'm not...
All I asked was, I'm sorry, I'll reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. I just want...
So do you want her to explain it or not? You gave her the time. Do you want her to explain it or not?
You didn't answer my
No,
question.
no, I'm not.
All I asked was, I'm sorry, I'll reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. I just want one. I'll go for a second round if somebody needs more time. One example of where this precise policy worked. It's going to be a short discussion. As a matter of fact, I've got 5 seconds left now. And there's still no one here that's going to be offering up one successful example. My time has expired, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
I need it on the soundboard. I need it.
Oh, my time has expired, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
I just can't bear.
Ranking member,
President.
So you didn't want the answer. Okay. She had an answer for you. You didn't want it? Okay. Now we move on to another clip that I had, which was Mike Lawler showed up to a committee that he's not on, but he showed up as a guest to the committee to introduce someone. Okay, that's all he was there for. He was not a member of this committee. He showed up to introduce someone. He decides to take liberties with that introduction as if to make a statement as if he's on the committee. Raskin goes after him for it. It's a very hilarious interaction, but also just to show that Congress it's not serious in and of itself.
Infinitely harder when places like New York and Chicago blatantly disregard existing law and provide safe harbor to criminals. Sanctuary policies
Mr. Chairman,
are the reason.
Point of order. This is a statement, not an introduction.
Lady's point is well taken. Gentleman, please confine his remarks to the introduction.
Thank you.
So even the chairman points out, you are starting to make statements, which you are not allowed to do because you are not a part of this committee. You are meant to introduce one of the members that's going to be speaking, okay? One of these people. You're meant to be introducing them, and you're making statements. So even the chairman, remember, the chairman calls him out. Please limit your speech to introduction.
Back in May of 2023, over 3 years ago, Sheridan's murderer illegally entered the United States. Border Patrol caught him. They apprehended him. But then, because of the Biden administration's ludicrous open border policies, he was released into our country. A month later, he was arrested for shoplifting in Chicago. Under existing law and the law at the time, he should have been deported right then and there.
Point of order, this is not an introduction.
By our federal laws.
Point of order, this is not an introduction, it's a speech.
You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Mr. Chairman,
disgraceful.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, for ruling on the point of order.
Mr. Chairman.
Precisely because you have failed to do your job.
Yes,
Mr.
You wonder
Chairman.
why we had 4 years, 4 hearings?
Why is he being allowed to ramble like this? His job was to introduce people. Hi, this is Mary Smith, who works for this organization. That's it. That's all he was meant to do. Why is he allowed to get away with this? Oh, because Republicans chair the committees when they're in charge.
Because you don't understand the consequence of sanctuary policy.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, we won't give our approval for people to introduce their constituents.
Show me where it happened to this level still kicking. To this level, where he continued on after the chairman has now told him twice to stop.
If people don't stick to the rules. So I appreciate the chairman's insistence that we stick to the rules and that you have the opportunity to introduce your constituent, which I think you have done.
My constituent
so thank you very much, Mr. Lawler and Mr. Chairman.
Sharing the details of her death. You may not want to hear the details. It may be an inconvenience to you, but these details...
It's not that they don't want to hear the details, it's that you do not have the right to issue those details here. You are not a part of this committee. You are here simply to introduce. This is not your time to make a statement. You have no position with which to make a statement. You are not the chairman. You are not the deputy chair. You do not have that power here. That's the point. It's not about what you're saying. It's about the fact that you don't have the power with which to say it.
Details matter.
The gentleman will
Still kicking, that's not what we said. We didn't say the Dems fallow, which is not how that's spelled. Follow the rules every time. I didn't say that. I said find me an example of it happening to this extent, where he just keeps going after the chairman cut him off.
We have...
Arturo, you started out in my community saying, I know, I'm so glad. Thank you for educating me because I don't know a lot about what I'm talking about and I don't really research into this stuff. And so thank you so much for educating me. And you seem to have think that you grew some balls. I don't know what puberty you think you went through, but I've seen the shit that you type in the chat and it doesn't seem like you've learned a goddamn thing. Why? Because every piece of information you've learned goes against your beliefs and your feelings in your tum-tum. Your feelings in your tum-tum. Because you're not here to learn, Arturo. You're not here to learn. Or else you wouldn't be commenting about my personality or my energy. You would be commenting on what is happening and what we're talking about.
An agreement with the minority that the introductions will be introductory only. So if I could just ask for the gentleman to make that introduction and conclude.
Sure. When you send your kid to college, you should be worried about making sure they go to class.
Literally was just told by the chairman to stick to introductory statements. Okay, yes, Chairman. When you send your kids to school, is that an introductory statement?
Or hopefully that they have a nice roommate. Or how to help them get a summer internship. Not worried that illegal immigrants are shooting them while they're out with their friends looking at the Northern Lights. It is shameful that we are here. Not because this is the fourth hearing, but because we need to have 4 hearings to make people understand the real-life consequences of the disastrous sanctuary city policies. So while some of my colleagues may not want to hear the truth, the same outrage you feel about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, you should feel about Sheridan Gorman and Laken Riley and every Angel family in this country.
Once again, Laken Riley's family has asked you to keep her name out your bitch-ass mouth. I don't know why that's so difficult for you. 2, you guys can't fucking describe sanctuary city policies to me at all. You don't understand what the fuck they mean. 3, you don't understand how they protect victims at the same time that you think that they're there protecting criminals, which they're not. And once again, it is not that nobody wants to hear it. It is that that is not his job in this committee today.
I do feel that outrage.
You do not. Because if you did, you would not support sanctuary jurisdiction.
Do you feel the outrage about Alex Preddy and Renee Good?
You should be ashamed.
This is where him and Raskin go at it.
In this country.
I do feel that outrage.
You do not. Because if you did, you would not support sanctuary jurisdiction.
Do you feel the outrage about Alex Preddy and Renee Good? You should be ashamed. You don't belong in this committee. You should get the hell out of here. You don't understand the rules of the committee. You don't understand the Constitution.
Mr.
Raskin,
Mr. Raskin,
you're an absolute disgrace supporting sanctuary policies.
Say one word about it.
Get rid of sanctuary.
I'm sorry, why is the chairman telling Raskin to get a hold of yourself when Mike Lawler is literally screaming? Raskin said, I do feel that outrage. You do not! You don't feel it when you support sanctuary cities. Raskin, get a hold of yourself. But Lawler can scream at the top of his lungs in a situation where he's supposed to be doing introductions. That's fine. We're fine with that. Okay.
I did. I wrote a whole New York Times op-ed about it. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself for not opposing.
Look how red he's getting. Look how red he's getting.
Yourself for not opposing sanctuary policies that resulted in their daughter's death.
The committee will be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say we will not allow, thanks to Mr. Lawler's outrageous outburst, we will not allow this to happen again. This was an agreement between the chair and the ranking member, and unfortunately, you're not able to control your members, so it is time for us to proceed.
Your opening statement was outrageous. You should be ashamed of yourself. I yield back.
Get off of it.
And he leaves. Why? Because he's not on this committee. It was a deal they struck to allow him to come in to introduce these people who are going to speak in front of that committee. And he violated that deal because he started speaking and making statements he's not allowed to make. If he was on the committee and given time, he could say all of that shit that he wanted to. without interruption. He's not on that committee.
Try to conduct ourselves in a civil manner.
Speak that to your member, Mr. Chairman.
We have two other.
Speak it to your member. Maybe speak it to your guy. But sure. Okay. Let me read some of these messages and see what else I can get to with the last 8 minutes. Thank you so much, Peter, for the $2 to get to 6-7 going, and for crabs. Thank you.
Oh my God, I have crabs.
I appreciate that. And also thank you to Robbie 6 Strings. I always see you over there in the YouTube chat. Thank you for the 425. He said thanks for the hard work. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. That is, I can. Nope. Leave me alone. We do this every single time. It is what it is. Okay. I don't like math. It wasn't my subject. And I have to cope through it every single day. I'm on this app. Let's do some Carrie Lake. We haven't done some Carrie Lake in a little bit. I have a couple clips from her. So she went in front of Congress a while ago. And Kane went at her. She tried to claim that Senator Ruben Gallego was being paid by the cartels in Arizona, on the Mexico border between Mexico and Arizona. And she gets absolutely eviscerated by Tim Kaine here. And we do love that for her. So I'm going to play that while we're sitting here. Guys, thank you so much for getting me to 244,000 likes on the TikTok. That means we can hit that 250 before we end. I appreciate it. Does she still think she's the governor? Probably. She probably does.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Lake, in response to a question from Senator McCormick, you said that you were proud of the way you ran your campaigns in 2022 and 2024. When I asked you a question on September...
And I just want everybody to know that when Tim Kaine has his glasses up here, he means business. That's when it's serious time.
27, 2024, you gave a TV interview about your opponent, then House member, now our colleague, Senator Gallego, in which you said he is, quote, controlled by the cartels. His own father was a Colombian drug trafficker, and so he's got links to the cartel. A PolitiFact article on October 3, a few days later, rated that pants on fire. And the title of the article, and I'd like to submit it for the record, Mr. Chair, is In Arizona Senate Race, Carrie Lake Fabricates Link Between Ruben Gallego and Drug Cartels. Now, this is pretty undiplomatic behavior. And just for my colleagues, I hope you might read this story. Ruben, our colleague, has written a memoir about his very troubled upbringing and about the fact that he was abandoned by his father, who then did get into criminal trouble. He was abandoned by his father. He had to be raised by his mother. He was so furious at his father that he changed his last name to be his mother's maiden name, not his father's name. He talks about graduating from boot camp as a Marine, and after years of abandonment, his dad tried to show up and take credit for his own graduation from Marine boot camp. And he writes about how furious that made him and still makes him. He writes about how ashamed he is of his father, how angry he is at his father. Abandonment by a father is one of the most seminal tragedies of life. I mean, go back to the biblical phrase, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? This is not something to fool around with. Ms. Lake accused one of our sitting colleagues of being controlled by the cartels. You had no evidence then, nor do you have any evidence now, that our colleague Senator Gallego is controlled by cartels, do you, Ms. Lake?
Well, we provided the receipts. The father was a high-level drug trafficker, trafficking hundreds of thousands.
You said that Ruben Gallego was controlled by the cartels. You provided no evidence. This was rated pants on fire, a lie. You had no evidence then, and you have no evidence now that Ruben Gallego is controlled by cartels. Isn't that right?
I thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Lake, in response to a question,
Why did it do that?
George was wrong. How about apologizing to her? At 2:35 in the morning, the photo evidence.
Was that the end of the video, or am I is my thing tripping? Hold on. What was that? It's never done that before. Where it exited itself. That was weird. Hold on. That might have just been the end of it. No, it was not. Why did it do that?
A high-level drug trafficker trafficking hundreds of thousands.
You said that Ruben Gallego was controlled by the cartels. You provided no evidence. This was rated pants on fire, a lie. You had no evidence then, and you have no evidence now that Ruben Gallego is controlled by cartels. Isn't that right?
I thank you for the question, Senator Kaine. I do appreciate it. I don't know, and I'm not here to do reputational control or reputational
How about an
repair
apology to our colleague? If you made that claim he was controlled by cartels, and now you're saying you don't know what the facts are, then you're acknowledging that your charge was wrong. How about apologizing to our colleague?
I don't believe my charge was wrong.
Okay.
Ruben Gallego's father is a high-level
That's not the question I asked you.
Who is a felon.
That's not the question. You asserted he was controlled by cartels. You had no evidence then. You have no evidence now. You're unwilling to admit it. And here's something that's even worse, Mr. Chair. That was during the heat of a campaign. Sometimes we say things during campaigns that we go too far. She's continued to repeat this.
I have to stop her because holy crap. I want to see W's in every single fucking chat, please. Holy crap. Huge W's to Mark. Thank you, Mark, for the $100 super chat. Wow. Thank you so much. He said, thank you for being awesome and dealing with us here on YouTube. The YouTube chat's fun. I think the YouTube chat's fun for the most part, except for the bots. I don't like the bots. But I like the YouTube chat. I like pushback. Again, I'm always looking for factually based information that maybe I haven't seen before to give me a different perspective. I'm always looking for that. But holy crap, huge W's to you. Thank you so much for that. You love my passion? Well, some people seem to get very mad about my passion, so I appreciate that you love it because I know that as far as misogyny in society can go, women who are passionate tend to be a sore subject for people. So I appreciate that you appreciate it, and I thank you for being in my chat every day, and I thank you enormously for that donation. Thank you so much. So we finish with Carrie Lake.
As a sitting member of the Trump administration, a couple months ago, Ruben Gallego put out a tweet against the invasion of Venezuela. He didn't mention Ms. Lake. He just said he was against it. And she, at 2:35 in the morning, the following day, responded, "You are a member of a Mexican cartel family. You are also a fraud. No one is surprised by your take." She's continuing to repeat a lie. She just told the committee she has no idea whether it's true or false, but she was glad to say it, and she won't retract it now.
Well, we're not shocked by that because Carrie Lake also thinks that she's the governor of Arizona because she lost, but she's refusing to concede on that loss and also the 2020 contest as well. So then I have one more, Chris Murphy to Lake on handling the transmitting of information to Iran. So, her having her job, okay, as so being a nominee for the things that she's in charge of, she's not doing her job. And Chris Murphy just calls that out.
It's a very specific issue where there was a major problem because we weren't able to broadcast into Iran because you had denied access to these transmitters. You said it was because they were inoperable. They were not inoperable, correct?
We have had repairs done on them, so it could have been at a time when there were repairs done, but we weren't denying them.
You were definitive. You said that this was not a decision to deny them access, that they were inoperable. I mean, this committee can find the answer to this question pretty easily. You're always doing repairs on transmitters. Those transmitters were not inoperable, correct?
I will have to look into that. I don't know.
Well, but you stated on the record that they were inoperable, whereas your staff contended that you were denying them access to the transmitters in order to limit the amount of information in Iran.
Radio Farda was doing a product and VOA Persia was doing a product, and we were using the 24 hours we had to put VOA, which is a government.
So her own staff is speaking against her, saying that this information that Iran was trying to get, thank you so much, I appreciate you for the jewels, this information that we were trying to disseminate to Iran, she was saying, well, the transmitters weren't working, they were broken, and the staff was like, we didn't even have access to them, how would we know? So now this is her explanation.
Owned entity out on the airwaves in Iran. And you know, we have only 24 hours in the day. Unfortunately, sometimes I wish we had more, but we chose to put VOA.
I'm well over my time. I think your limitation of our ability to transmit information to Iran was egregious. It's made more egregious by the fact that you were not telling the truth about what was happening behind the scenes to limit our ability to tell an American story in Iran. And I will follow up for the record on this question of whether you were telling the truth about those transmitters being inoperable. Thank you, Mr.
I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
This is a very...
Doesn't sound like she had answers to those particular questions. So, I mean, there's that part. Okay. Do I have anything funny to end with? I don't know that I do, really. No, not really. Well, no. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to go over a little bit to do this, because to me this was funny, because you know me and I love hate Trump's bullshit. So we're going to end with a couple things from his fucking funeral, from Lindsey Graham's funeral yesterday before we get out of here, guys, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you, TikTok, for hitting that 250,000 likes. But I'm going to do this, and then we will get out of here. Now, as somebody who's been to a funeral, my father's, I don't remember this being something that is, what do you, kosher? I don't know, that it's acceptable to do to somebody's casket when you walk by it. Just a little patty pat. Just a little... Good game. GG. What is this? If you guys want to block.com, you can. Get rid of him. He can come back tomorrow with his rage. I don't know what's wrong with him. And then Donald Trump strayed away from the speech that was obviously pre-written for him. I don't know, because it spoke too much about... He's checking how well it's anchored. Maybe he thought he'd knock back. Maybe he was going to knock back. You don't know. But apparently the speech was too much of everybody loved him. He was so well respected, and Trump couldn't have that, I guess.
Heated things got in Washington. Virtually everyone, Republican or Democrat, liked Lindsey. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. Not everybody. He was a tough cookie, okay? I have to veer from this for a second. He was a tough cookie, Darlene, but he was beautiful.
It's a funeral. You always say that everybody loves them and that they didn't have any enemies and whatever, whether they did or not. It's a funeral. What are you doing? And then I liked this one. I'm just going to play it without context because just his own words.
No fiercer or more constant opponent. Our nation needs more men and women like that great person sitting, laying, wherever he may be. I think I know where he is, and I think he's up there. I think he's watching us. I'm pretty sure of it. Scripture tells us that blessed...
What? Where is he?
Like that great person sitting, laying, wherever he may be. I think I know where he is, and I think he's up there. I think he's watching us. I'm pretty sure of it.
Sitting, laying, wherever he may be. You were pointing to his casket. I think I know where he is. He doesn't know how to human. He does not know how to human. Like, at all. And the last one I have, which is a surprise to no one. Here you go.
Behind this wonderful staff, I know he would be so proud because the past 2 weeks have been crazy busy, but you've made it happen. And that's so Senator Lindsey Graham.
Don't tell me that he's not sleepy. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, little Trumpy. Hopefully you don't wake up. The world will be a better place. Yeah, he falls asleep. That's the thing that happens. I don't have the tic-tac video on this outline, which actually makes me mad. Trump tic-tac. Let's see if I can find the... It's not how you spell that. Him unsuccessfully having a tic-tac video. Yes, Jen, I do. I actually do. I will tout myself for a little bit. I'll toot my own horn. I'm a theater choir kid. I can sing. It's possible that it happens. He missed. He missed! Which, to be fair, is a very normal human thing to do, but it's Trump, so we're going to call out every little thing that he does because they don't let anything go. We're not going to let anything go. That's the amount of petty that I can give you, but that's about it. Last little bits of messages. Thank you, Scuba Steve, for the $12.75. For Lindsey Gone, this tribute for McConnell. Flowers. He's not around either. He's not here. Don't know where he is. Don't know where he went, but he's not here. Thank you, guys. We almost got my entire goal accomplished today. I do appreciate you guys for that. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Especially thank you again, Mark, for that $100 super chat. Yeah. The state of our country. So tomorrow I will probably get into my immigration portion, finally, that I will get into, and God knows whatever else happened while I was live, because the world doesn't stop. I didn't get to report on the fact. I do have the video about it on my TikTok specifically, but it's just a quick video just to say that it happened, is that Central Command admitted that we allegedly struck IRGC terrorists in Iraq. So we're just destabilizing the whole region now. Love that for us. Love that for us. What I should have said was that gut drinking last night, because it is seriously hungover. R. Baron, you told me to sing for you guys. I can't just sing on command. What am I singing? I need to start doing singing lives, don't I? You guys are make me start. I have. Never mind. I'm gonna keep that to myself again. About where there are videos of things. Anyway, getting out of here. Do it. Who are we raiding? Who is there to raid? I don't know who to raid because I usually raid RTP on YouTube and Twitch. What do I do with myself? Let me see if somebody comes up. That's not what I wanted. Also not what I wanted. Give me this. No, there's really nobody on. So I think Twitch and YouTube, I think you might be on your own. Who's that? Oh, I can't type. I can't spell. Hold on. I'm looking. I'm doing the thing. There's a person playing games. Let's see. Okay. If you guys want to go there, you can go there. I probably won't send the raid there, but YouTube and Twitch, thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys were, Jen, will you put which one she's on? Because I never know which account she's on, to be fair. YouTube and Twitch, thank you guys so much for being here. If you came from RTP, I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the follows. Bowsy, Ross, Blue, Paris, Susie, Blazin, Ban, Grackies, Mama. Thank you guys so much for the follows over there on Twitch. If you followed me on YouTube, thank you so much as well, guys. I will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, Mountain Time, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, whatever time that is for you. If you did happen to catch me because RTP was not on, I appreciate you guys being here. So thank you so much. What happened, Lurkin? You don't think I do? You don't think I what? I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.